I'm here with Cam Mesmer from Spell, one of the fucking raddest bands, coolest dudes I've come across. How you doing, man? It's
I'm
good
doing
to
pretty
see you.
Yeah, it's a nice Thursday night. Ready to rock.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of weird. Thursdays aren't usually like the typical day, but for me, Thursdays are pretty solid for having chats with people because I my sundown like at like 8 o'clock, and it's like I got like some freedom, and then like some people I talk to actually have like time differences, and it sucks because I'm like, oh fuck, I got like
Right.
a 8 hour time. I talked to one of my friends, Stephen Waddle from Ireland, and that was incredibly complicated, as you can imagine. Like
Yeah, yes.
9 hour time difference. You're like, fuck. And then the last person I talked to, my friend Dwayne from More in the Light, he's a 3 hour time difference. So I had to like juggle it. So you're the first person that like it's been kind of easy for a minute. I'm like, all right, we're on
Man,
the same fucking time,
yep.
same party, and hopefully, we get some more people up in here. But
Yeah.
anyway, man, I love Spell, man. I remember um I think if memory serves me correctly, you guys were supposed to be touring with Spellcaster down to California.
That sounds likely.
Spell and Spellcaster.
That sounds likely because we were for a little while. Gabe from Spellcaster, who's now, of course, the singer of Unto Others, was booking our. He was like running a little booking operation briefly, and he was booking our shows for a while. So I think that was the case. I think actually he was arranging that, but then Spellcaster couldn't do it, so we just did the tour, and that's when we ended up at a Frost and Fire. It was super fun, anyhow. But I think we played on that run with Beastmaker.
You did.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting. The interesting thing about all that is so I think because at that time we had been playing that place. I think it's called Golden,
Yeah.
if
Right.
memory serves me right. We had played there like 3 or 4 different times
Yep.
beforehand. I think Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day owns it now,
Really? That's kind of
which is kind of
yeah.
interesting. So it would probably been a lot better now than it was back
It
then,
was perfect
but
then, though.
it's still great.
Yeah.
Um, so I they contacted me. I already had heard of Spell. I was familiar with Spellcaster too because they had that really good Adam Burkhardt and
Yeah.
really good Adam Burkhardt. That was like one of my favorite ones that he did. I can't really remember what it was, like a skull with a light flaring down.
It
Like
was
it
sick.
was cool.
I gotta say they got it. I think right after Spell got it, the Adam Burkhardt.
They did.
Yeah. Well, actually, heck, I'll show you. I've got the Adam Burkhardt up here on my wall. See, can I flip it around here? Yeah. There.
You do.
Look at that. I got the original
Oh hell yeah.
stuff. Yep.
That's nice. A lot of people don't buy the painting, and I'm like, why the fuck didn't you buy that? I remember Eternal Champion, they didn't buy the artwork, and I think John Boltena bought it.
Oh man.
And I was like, fuck, that's gonna be a nice piece one day for somebody.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is when I first heard Spell, and I know you know this because we've both been doing this for a while now,
Little man. Yeah.
close to 10 years of like doing it. Really, you guys maybe even more,
I mean, fuck.
but
I've been trying to play in heavy
I've been
for, for I think more than 20 years now.
oh god, dude, I've been trying to play in heavy metal bands for 30 fucking years. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
I it wasn't until I decided to be the singer did anything actually happen. So
Yeah.
that's a sad state of affairs. There was a long road of me trying to find dudes that were like me, and
Yep.
it was impossible. I even thought I could influence people. But anyway, I remember because I'm a huge Angel Witch fan. You're on Will Palmer's label, Bad Omen.
Yeah.
So I was on Rise Above Records at the time,
Right.
and Will used to run Rise Above Records.
Yeah. That's right.
So I was already familiarized with all the things that Will was doing. So Will would put something out on Bad Omen. I would obviously I would be listening to it. And I heard you guys and I was like, man, I really like it for none and all. I was like, I really dig this. This is great. It's not like it's not your typical traditional metal band. It has something else that's going on. It's old school. It's melodic. It doesn't have any of the cheesy stuff happening that
I
sometimes
appreciate
will
that.
throw me off.
Yeah.
And at the time I was so flustered. I remember being so flustered because I had been working on Haunt.
Right.
I didn't really have it going yet.
You,
Like I had been recording, I was working on the Luminous Eye stuff, and I was like really wanting to show you guys Haunt when I played with you guys, but I
yeah.
had to do Beastmaker, which was kind of weird because I was like, "Fuck, we got to go play Doom. This is gonna be this other shit I'm working on fits the bill so much better."
And it
But
was and Mothership was also super cool that night. Those guys were awesome, really kind to
oh
us.
yeah, Mothership was, oh dude, that's right. We were on tour with Mothership.
Right.
We were touring with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And we were
Now my brain, I forgot that Mothership was on that. Yeah, Mothership fucking rules. And actually, if Kelly sees this, happy birthday. I already
oh
texted him
man,
today, but
happy birthday.
It's Kelly's birthday today.
That's
So
cool. Yes.
I
Yeah.
didn't call him, but at least I sent him a text message earlier and he wrote me back. So he's a good friend of mine. So yeah, that
I
was
hope
a really, strangely at that time, Oakland's actually gotten better. At that time, Oakland was pretty Golden Bowl. That was a weird spot. It's like you play it on like a curb basically, and you remember they had like a little catwalk.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, I remember it being pretty
So
because we were on tour with a band called Order of the Solar Temple. Super cool band. I mean, they disintegrated immediately after they were awesome dudes and stuff. But one of the dudes that band, I think, got a little too drunk that night, and then I remember it was during maybe Mothership set or something like that, maybe even your set. He had like left his jacket on stage, and you had to like climb this. There's no way to get on the stage and get kind of backstage without going like right through the band. And so I remember he walked on there and not unplugged someone's amp or something like that. It was kind of a minor disaster, but that stuck with me.
I don't know if it would have been Haunt because I'm not Haunt. I'm sorry. I wouldn't. It probably wouldn't have been Beastmaker because back then we used to use so much fog and we brought our own lights, so he wouldn't have been able to see anything up there. Because I
Oh,
remember I couldn't even see my own hand.
right.
It was weird. We played. We used to use so like back then in like 2000. That must have been 2017, maybe 2016. We
Somewhere.
would like when we would play anywhere, we would tell them to kill the lights,
Yeah,
and we had these strip lights that we used to put in front of us,
that's cool.
and we would have the fog machine basically pumping out fog like every 45 seconds. It would just automatically burst,
Yeah,
and we kind of didn't want people to see us.
right.
Like
That can
we
be a cool.
wanted some like darkness to it, to where like at the time, like Uncle Acid was kind of getting a lot of recognition, and nobody had really seen what those guys looked like.
Yeah,
They didn't even have pictures on the internet for their first couple things. You didn't know
right.
who the fuck they were, and we thought it was kind of like cool to kind of have like that like mysterious like kind of thing happening with doing doom metal, to where it's like foggy, you can't see us, and
It
because
is.
we didn't really have a gimmick, we just played music and dressed like rock guys, I guess. Is the
It's
pseudo term. But I took you guys, so I took you guys out to eat because I wanted to meet you guys. I wanted you guys to remember me. And besides that, you guys were on a tour that had a band drop off. The Spellcaster was on that because I remember
yeah,
seeing that. I was like, what a weird fucking tour. I was like, Spell and Spellcaster. I was like, fucking funny one, just because of the names, so, but yet so different. And the bands, you guys couldn't really be any different. But I want to talk about
sure.
one thing real quick because I know that you probably are right with me on this because I mean, I've been right there alongside with you, except for Haunt came out in like 2017. You guys were I'm pretty certain you didn't know what the fuck new wave of traditional heavy metal was. Did you had you heard that term before yet?
Oh, I can't remember exactly when I first heard it, but I mean, it's kind of an apt term. But I remember when, because I'm living in British Columbia, Canada, so I remember one of the first shows I ever booked was back in 2006. One of the first shows I ever booked and promoted myself, and like brought all the bands on. And it was like I was trying to make a mini festival, and I call it the New Wave of British Columbian Heavy Metal Festival. So I kind of feel like I was a couple steps ahead of the game on that one. But New Wave
Oh
traditional
yeah,
metal obviously caught on a lot more.
I never like. It's funny because I guess I was like, I still think of our bands like in the like heavy because I don't I feel like a lot of the traditional heavy metal bands when I see it posted on the YouTube page, it's very
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
power metal more to me. Like
yeah.
it's more fantasy and our bands don't really
Well, I kind
that
of feel like there's a
like
bit of yeah,
sword play
feel like there's a bit
thing.
of a revisionist history thing going on where nowadays when people think of traditional heavy metal or new wave British heavy, whatever they're kind of thrown back to, they imagine it as something that it never really was. Like it's like, and no offense to these bands because this is a cool sound, but it's like it's
Oh, of course
all
not.
bands that sound like all the albums sound like Painkiller, and don't get me wrong, I love Painkiller,
Yeah.
but it's like Painkiller wasn't that's not what new wave of traditional heavy metal bands sounded like in the 80s, and it's like all the lyrics,
No.
not all of them, but like I kind of feel, and I've kind of ranted a bit about this before, and some people like to give me a hard time about this, but it's like there's this belief that if you're not singing about swords and dragons, then it's like somehow not really heavy metal. And I kind of, I mean, yeah, sure, like there's lots of bands that sing about that shit that are cool, but to be totally honest, and apologies to Dio, but that shit kind of bores me. I would just rather hear about stuff that's real. I love bands that sing about shit that is actually kind of relevant. And I was going to mention that I think your lyrics are cool because it's stuff that I can kind of relate to when I read them. I also love. I mean, one big one is like
Yeah.
a band like Sonya, for example. I think they're one of the coolest bands around. And
Sure.
sure, it's like I relate to all their
Yep.
lyrics on a personal level necessarily, but I can tell that it's coming from a personal place, and I can tell that it's meaningful and relevant, and it's not just kind of like making up some bullshit about lightning bolts and firecrackers or whatever. So I kind of feel like,
It's a tough one.
yeah, yeah,
It's a there's a fine line to what passes through for me in that area, and a lot of it for me personally it comes down to the guitar riffs being used because the first when I first if I hear a song that has like a basically Iron Maiden rip off out the gate like Batum, I almost am just like, why do you exist?
yeah,
Like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like cutting edge by any means, but I don't feel like Haunt sounds like a lot of the bands in that genre
right, right,
at
right,
all. And especially probably from my California upbringing where I grew up in a heavily punk rock influenced state, like
yeah,
huge punk bands are from California. So it's impossible for me not to have that, and maybe that's why I'm not so into the swords and shit. I'm into the
right,
street stuff
yeah,
and the life stuff is
yeah,
because like that's maybe to the culture of California, we're a little bit more uh you know up to what's going on in society and things and whatnot, and want to talk about that more than we want to talk about Lord of the Rings
yeah,
stuff, which I
yeah.
feel. And again, I don't want to.
No, man, I like the Lord of the Rings as much
Anybody.
as
I'm not bashing on anyone at all. Do your fucking thing, but it is what it is important to kind of sit apart. And I've always felt spell. That's what I message you all the time. I'm like, man, I'm listening. I can't remember which song I was listening to. Garden. I can't remember fucking
oh,
name of it. Garden song
ruined
on
the new album.
which one?
It's called A Ruined Garden from Tragic Magic.
Ruin. Oh,
Yeah,
oh, I loved it. I messaged you that day because I was in my car and I kept hitting repeat, and I just loved the opening guitar like is that it?
something like that.
I might be. It might be one of your other amazing songs. It's hard for me to say anymore because I was gonna wear one of my spell shirts and I was gonna make a joke, but I decided not to. So I bought a River of Sleep shirt back in the day,
Oh,
and
sweet.
it's like one of my favorite shirts. Like I love the art. I love blue, so I love the color blue. Blue is a great color, and it's hilarious. I have the hardest time wearing it because the screen print is crooked.
Oh
It's
shit.
so it's so fucking crooked and that makes me sad. Like I wear it and I go, don't look at it. Just
Oh man.
know that no one's gonna notice except for you.
Oh dude,
No one
I
cares.
got some news for you. There's a crooked image on the shirt you're wearing right now.
Oh yeah, it's so. And you know what? This is the weirdest fucking shirt ever. This is the weirdest.
It's still the
I.
remember
It's
down
so.
buy it.
It's so proportionally off,
Yeah.
and in all things. I mean, the logo and this, it needs to be like whoever the screen printer is didn't go, hey guys, this thing might be a little bit crazy, but
Somehow,
you know what?
I don't know why.
The 7 inch does it for me. So like when I wear this, I
Yeah.
just imagine the loser 7 inch in all its glory because obviously we know Angel Witches had a very weird career,
Yeah, that's for sure.
if anything.
But I really
And
appreciate how they're still
it's
pumping out awesome albums nowadays.
oh, their fucking new album's incredible. Don't
It's
Turn Your Back is one of my favorite songs.
yeah, I
There's
love
some great shit on there. And Will told me that Kevin had like some of those songs from fucking way back in the day,
really
like in the
cool.
eight. Yeah, some of those he's like, dude, this song is like 40 years old. And
Wow.
I was like, really? Because obviously, like I talk to those guys and I try to like, you know, be as friendly as I can. I'm heavily influenced by obviously British metal in general. I mean, like Ozzy is like one of my favorite artists of all time. And like when I first heard the song Angel Witch, I was like, there really isn't a cooler heavy metal song in my mind. The opening lick is sick as fuck. It's the band's name is Angel Witch, the song is Angel Witch, and the album is Angel Witch. So it's just like really crazy. But anyway, I've always thought Spell, you guys are in a league of your own in light of like you don't follow, like when I hear Spell, I'm like, that's Spell. Like I would never have to second guess
I feel the same way about Haunt.
anything.
You guys, the thing about you guys is you're always pumping out new shit so often. So like
Yeah,
a lot of the time a new single will just pop up and I didn't even know coming, right? So like I'll just be on sometimes I'll just be like on Spotify or whatever listening, have it on a random shuffle. And then suddenly there's a song I never heard before. And it's like I can immediately tell that it's Haunt. Because you guys don't sound exactly like all the other bands, like especially when your voice comes in, of course. But usually even before then,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh shit,
yeah.
there must be a Haunt album that's about to drop.
Yeah, it's never ending over here, but there's something that Kurt Vonnegut said, and I'm trying to think of it. I'm gonna fuck it up because
Dude,
that's just I'm halfway through this joint now, and my
uh,
brain I'm just cooking my brain cells. So they say Kurt Vonnegut, I believe, said, all art is good art and good for your soul. Something along that like line. You do
uh,
art, it's like
yeah,
good or bad, it's good for your soul.
yeah.
And I always thought that was really I know I'm fucking it up, but
No, you're
regardless of that, it sticks.
it was something I think I
And
thing, and it was something about how like it if it doesn't matter whether or not you're good or bad, no who's to judge that. But the point is, you just have to fucking try. You just have to try to make some goddamn art because whether or not
yeah,
it sucks or not, it's still you still need to do it. It's still yeah, it's still good for your soul.
it's good for the soul. And I've been a firm believer of that for a
Yeah,
long time. It's like I don't do haunt for other people. I do it for myself.
yeah,
And like, and for me, it's like every year I want to work on a record.
yeah.
Fucking So I mean, crucify me for that or whatever. You know what I mean? Like some German magazines, they don't like that kind of
Right.
output. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm like, I'm 42 years old. I'm not getting any younger. And why wait? What's the purpose of that? I'm not going to be like, there's going to be a time that anything could happen, like
Oh my god.
I want to do my art. I've noticed recently you guys have been really more like you put out more in the last couple years than you have in a long time because you did For None and All, and there was a big ass break. It was like
Yeah.
2-3 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 4 years. I think it was 4 years.
I
but
I didn't think you're ever gonna come out with anything. I was like, is anything gonna ever come out? And then obviously it did.
some changes happened within the band and made it a lot easier to get shit done. That's all I'll say.
No, I already know. And like we both have suffered the loss of a guitar player in our bands, and it's like either which way it goes, it's never a simple thing, but it also, like sometimes it brings new light to the table that
Yeah.
makes it better. And I feel like, now after hearing Tragic Magic, that's the name of the album, the new one, right?
Yep. That's a new one.
Tragic Magic.
Yep.
I know all of it. Don't fucking
I
question me. I'll get it, man. I listen to you guys a lot. I even bought the vinyl package from Bad Omen that came with the
oh shit.
shirt. I had to wait for it to. Yeah, the only shitty thing about ordering stuff from England is the record always comes bent
Oh fuck.
every time.
Yeah.
I own all of your guys' stuff
It,
on vinyl.
yeah. It's brutal. You also freaking
But who
went.
cares? I don't need perfection anyway.
Yeah.
I buy it for one. I want to support the band. I want to support Bad Omen Records as well.
Yeah.
And it's a good way for my son to like get into the bands that I'm into because he can put them
Okay.
on and play it. I'm trying to get him to be a little bit more of like, this is how you play music, son, instead of being like this, because
Yeah.
it's like I feel like we've become very detached um, on how we listen to music, and I don't really like it. I'm not that into the streaming thing. I'm
Yeah.
pretty anti-streaming at the end of the
I have like
day.
piles of records and shit, and yeah, that's what I.
Yeah, I know you're. That's what you're like one of the you kill my record collection. I mean, I wouldn't have been like so broke in my life and
You got a
poor
god.
and trying to
Child.
fund
That's a pretty good.
what?
You got a goddamn child to raise. That's a pretty good excuse. I don't have none of those.
Well, no, I mean, like I'm talking about years before in my 20s.
Yeah.
I used to like I just had it hard, man. I didn't really have that much money, and
Yeah.
I was roommating with people. I was always had roommates, so I moved around a lot,
How
and I
many
was
other?
like lugging records everywhere. And eventually, it got kind of old, and I gave one of my friends a huge crate of my stuff, like three or four milk crates full of great records to hold on to, and I don't even know what happened to them at that point,
Shit.
gone. But and then I remember when Beastmaker was getting going, this guitar right here, this one right here,
Yeah. I remember you were playing that
my
guitar when I first met you at that show.
I love this guitar.
Yeah.
So this guitar was so out of my league because it was 5 grand.
Holy shit. That's expensive. It's way more expensive than any.
Yeah. So it was a lot of money. And I actually sold, I had a really good thrash metal, all original vinyl. My friend Don Malman, he used to help me out and find the first pressing. So I had like first
Cool.
pressings Metallica's, first pressing Slayer's, first pressing Megadeth, all of it. And I sold all of it to get the guitar.
That's a good sale, man. I think that you did so much shit with that guitar. Personally, I'm not like, yeah, I'm talking out of the side of my mouth because I've got like hundreds or thousands of records, but like, I'm not a big collector. Like, I feel like if you can sell something that's just sitting on a and replace it with something that enables you to actually do something, then that's a really good deal. Like, you did so much with that guitar. I first when I
Yeah, oh, this
yeah, yeah,
It's
Yeah,
amazing. So
that's the best. That's the best grade ever. Yeah,
great path. You do have to have a guitar that you feel. Um, when I first saw you guys, I already forgotten the builder's name, but you guys have some Canadian.
yeah.
You
We got some Lados.
what's that dude's name?
Well, his name is Joe. Is Joe? What's his real name? It goes by Joe Lado. Lado. They're made in Ontario. Those are the.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I still love. Yeah, I still play my Lado bass every time. It's my favorite. It's great, and I've got a Lado guitar too. That's what I mostly record.
He's a really cool. I actually was following him for a long time, and I love his builds. He's so into his woods
He was retired, which is
and
too bad because they're so cool. But so they're just going up in value. I was lucky to get mine for pretty well, fairly cheap. Yeah, a few years ago. But man, I just think they look cool and they sound amazing. I love.
I thought it was a BC Rich.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought it was a BC Rich when I first saw it.
I think they first came out as trying to be like a BC Rich killer back when they came out in the late 60s. I guess BC Rich was a pretty big thing back then, so they were kind of trying to emulate that. And of course BC Rich is like kind of Gibson styled, sort of. It's like kind of a Les Paul.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
like that's kind of I think the corner of the market that Lado was trying to get. But to be totally honest, I have recently become a Strat man, and the guitar that I'll show you here.
Yeah, let's see it.
The guitar that I have sitting around that I play every day and like I'm writing the new spell album on is this Strat, and it's like kind of a weird one. I thought it was fake originally, but it's not. It's just a weird headstock. I looked into it deep, and this thing plays fucking nicely. It's just honestly, I hate to say it because I was like a Gibson guy forever, but this thing plays so much easier than any Gibson I've ever played, and it just feels so
So much easier. I
yeah,
mean, I'll be right back.
yeah, yeah. I just
Because
gotta get
of course, I have a Strat too, but
that's
I
like
got a Charvel.
sort of style.
And
His is Jackson, I think.
I will say this. I will say this about one thing I noticed because I took this out on tour,
Yeah,
and a Strat, the way it's balanced on the body, it takes no fucking it like
yeah,
SG is gonna die if you're always holding it
yeah,
up.
yeah,
And these are so fast. My biggest problem with Gibson and any Strat these days, and you can get them, but it costs you a lot more, 24 frets.
yeah.
I've from all the BC Rich stuff, it got me into the 24 fret game where it was like, I want 24 frets. It's like
So
when
I'll
I
play.
when it's not there, I didn't think I thought I was like, I'm gonna rewrite this solo,
Yeah.
without the 24.
Well, what you got to get
And it just
HM Strats. They made them for when was it
yeah,
like early '90s or something like that. That's what Al has, and he played all the solos
they're
on the
cool.
on that. Sounds great.
They are, but you know what? Like I have my own like custom signature
Yeah,
guitar,
that's the
basically. Yeah, so the
yeah.
Trevor guitar.
That's awesome.
So I mean, it has the haunt inlay on the 12,
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
and but the thing is like I wish I could. I've owned so many probably I still am buying guitars, but there will be a time I am on the search for a white HM
Cool.
Strat, but with all chrome. I'm very peculiar. Like I can't have black
Black
bridges.
hardware is
They have to be chrome
yeah,
or gold.
yeah.
I'm just shitty
Bro,
like that. Somebody so dope said Opulent Decay and Mind Freeze got me through the pandemic. Great
oh,
to see you guys together.
thanks, dude.
Dope. Thank you, man. I'm glad you made it through the pandemic, and I'm glad that you listen to both our bands. That makes me happy because Spell is one of my favorite bands, and I listen to their music while drive. Like usually when I listen to you guys, I'm in the I'm driving.
That's the best
That's
time
where I listen.
when I listen to
It's the
Hunt too.
only time I have to really like listen. I don't like when I'm home, I'm working on my own shit.
Yeah.
So I rarely am um listening to other people's stuff here. But in the car, my God, I mean, like, you could ask Sam, my bass player, on this last tour that we just did with Hellfire. I had Opulent Decay on like every day. Like it would be on that. It was like one of those things. It helped me get through the drives, you know.
Yeah, even
I'm kind of a fucking control freak behind the wheel, and I really like to be the driver, and mainly because I want to pick the songs. I want to be the DJ,
yeah,
and
yeah, me
so
too.
that one was really heavily played. But I still am listening to Tragic Magic pretty frequently right now. It's still kind of new to me,
Right.
but it's really grown on me a lot. And you guys to me are like a grower band. And I don't say that in a negative way at
No,
all. When I hear it, I don't even like, because it's just not, I'm so used to, like, when I hear a song, I could almost guess everything that's going to happen in it,
right, right.
and with you guys I can't, I have learned, you're some I played with you guys
Yeah,
at my fest,
as well.
and I have really like listened to your guys' music, and I know your guys' style, and I know certain things that you guys do now, like with your composition, but still it throws me every time. Like Ultraviolet, I was like, whoa, like it starts off way different than when the singing begins. It's like it almost like there's a shift right there where it
It's
isn't
funny,
really.
because everyone, whenever people talk about spell, they're always like, "Oh, it's so weird, man. It's so out of left field." It's like people call it like progressive a lot, which is cool and all, but like it's kind of funny to me because all I've ever tried to do is just write. Like I'm just trying to write like a hot heavy metal song, you know. Like I'm never trying to make it weird or whatever. Maybe it's the Canadian thing. I don't know. It's just it's like yeah, it doesn't sound as weird to me as everyone thinks it is. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it's weird. I just don't like it. I have to go back and listen to it. It makes me go back. So like, cuz I it's not so typical, like that's what I'm saying. It's like it's not like you put a little bit more thought into it and creativity into it and personal touch
I mean,
to it that I think really makes you guys stand out. And so you guys at one point in time, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure some people would love to know this stuff, and we got some people watching right now. Thanks for everybody for watching. Striker.
yeah, yeah.
There was two Canadian strikers going
Yeah,
on.
well, I mean, so we started in 2007, and we were called Striker, and that was the same line. Was well, originally Striker was just me and Al, and we recorded the first stuff just just the two of us, and then but then it was after that it was basically the same lineup until we formed Spell in 2013. But I think this there's another Canadian striker from Edmonton who have become pretty damn successful. So but I think they formed right around that same time as well. But we didn't know about them originally because there wasn't really like social media in the same way. There was like
Yeah,
MySpace,
yeah.
but so like we didn't know about them for years, and then they weren't big at first either. So at first we were kind of like, "Fuck you, we're Striker," and they really didn't like that. But eventually they got really successful, and then we decided to rebrand because we like to spell way more anyhow. And now we know the Striker dudes; they're cool as hell. So no beef with them. But I think it kind of worked out for everyone.
I think that was a good shift in name. I'm gonna laugh about
Yeah.
it right now because I'm like Striker spell, and then I've had a spell enamel pin on my leather jacket
Oh, sweet.
since 2017. I just got your new one at the
Awesome.
show,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was like, I might replace it because the other one's getting a little bent. Now it's vintage almost. So
Yeah. There's this
I got to keep all the vintage stuff,
the
man.
funny show we did back in like 2015 or something like that. And Striker from Edmonton came to Vancouver, and also Spellcaster came up to play, and so we decided to play like a throwback set as Striker. We got out our old Striker banner, which I still have. So it was Striker and Spellcaster and Spell performing as Striker. That was the lineup for the show.
That's that is next level right
A little
there.
too
So
confused.
who is the spell lineup right now?
So right now the spell lineup is me and Al. Of course, we've always been in the band. And then we
Yeah,
on lead guitars we got Jeff Black, who also plays in Gatekeeper and
yeah.
and then on guitars and synth we've got Pete, who plays he plays also in a band called Girlfriends and Boyfriends, which is like kind of like a goth new wave band, and he's also got a project called Black Magique, which is like sort of like synth disco kind of band, both of which are totally, and honestly, it's such a great line. I'm so happy with the lineup right now. I feel like this is maybe the first time in my life when I've had a lineup that feels really, really good. And like everyone just totally gets it. And it's so much fun to hang out with those dudes and to be on the road with them. Like, and we've only had that lineup for like a few months now. We've already gotten to like travel to Europe and travel down. Well, I guess that wasn't quite the same lineup at Earfest, but we've gotten to travel quite a bit, and it's been spectacular. I'm so happy about it and so stoked to do the next record with those guys.
Yeah, it's I was really tripping when Graham left because you know that he and I are friends
Yeah,
still.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I still talk to him. We have kind of a kindred connection with my mom grows weed
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
he does his thing.
Yep,
Um, and we connected on a lot of areas, and then we used to nerd out with gear with each other back in the day. We would talk about amps,
yep.
and when he and I really I love his guitar playing. Like, I think he's an interesting guy. He's a good player.
Well, shit.
um real knowledgeable about vintage gear. He is, like, he's great. Like, I don't have anything negative to say about my experiences with him. But when he left, I was like, damn, how are they gonna do this? You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
was just like, how the fuck do like, in my mind, I was like, he's not replaceable. And because it's unique, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's not your typical like Iron Maiden
right.
traditional metal where it's different. You guys do a lot of clean tone stuff and use effects pedals that wouldn't really work in fat, like, painkiller speed type
No,
metal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
But I was really surprised to see, and actually I'm super stoked that you guys didn't even there nothing changed at all.
yeah,
Like, I feel
crazy.
like everything that I liked about the guitar
Yeah,
still exists, even though I know you're like the songwriter and you're writing, like, basically all of it. But you know that once somebody plays even your thing, it
yeah.
it's a little different.
Changes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah.
Even if it's not like just the all this composition's the same. It's just the players feel
Yep.
their guitar, their amps, their
Yeah.
effects and things.
I got to take a second here to credit my homie Felix, who runs a studio in town here, Little Red Sounds. He's become a great friend of mine, and he is he's been running a studio for quite a while. And when we first started recording, he taught us so much stuff. This is going back to like I think we first recorded some stuff with him in 2013, maybe. But he taught us so much about, I think about a lot of that stuff you're talking about. Like he taught me, he's kind of like maybe more of like a shoegaze guy or something, or like an old goth dude or something like that. I mean, he can do everything, but like originally, so he just like I learned so much, particularly about the delay pedal, and clean tones and how to work
Mhm.
keyboard. Like so, like most heavy metal guitar players, they just got like a couple pretty simple stop boxes. They got like maybe your normal clean channel, maybe your boost for solos, whatever. But I learned from Felix that you can do a lot more kind of texture that most metal bands don't do. So nowadays I'm kind of like I'm rocking the chorus a lot. I'm rocking the delay a lot. Um,
Yeah.
you and just like different types of amps and different types of pickups and stuff for different sections of songs. Like it's not just we never do it where you just like plug in your guitar and blast through the whole album side A and then blast through the whole album side B. Like we kind of like to do every single riff on every single song has its own sound. There's a purpose to that riff, and so you need to create a sound that captures the meaning of that riff. And then you got to have for side B, you want to have like something that complements side A. It's got to be a little different, but
Yeah.
mean the same thing. So that's how we record. We put a lot of time into it. It's
No, I love it. It's something. It's an area where, like, I've tried to explore things like that. I've always tried to be a versatile guitar player,
yeah.
and for some reason in heavy metal with clean tone, it's very complicated. We have a video coming out on
Cool.
February 5th with for a new record. I have the song and we do like I busted out like I couldn't do electric clean tone for some reason. There's just some reason every time I sit down and try to do anything, like I'm just like, no, no, this isn't working. But I had done a whole entire album of my songs, more in like a flamenco
Oh, cool.
style, well, I don't know. Like I got on a lot of the Latin percussive instruments that are just hand instruments, and try to kind of Fresno is really like Latino. There's a lot of
Yeah.
Latinos in California, and I've grown up with most of my friends that are Hispanic. Um, so I wouldn't say it's like that. I'm just saying it's like in my mind, that's what it like haunt sounded like if I was in the backyard,
Right.
like at some quinceañera or something. I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah.
playing. So I did a bunch of songs. I did like 8 songs, like that, and I was just like, what if I tried to like just I'm gonna do an intro like this,
Yep.
see
That's
what happens in heavy metal. It's a motherfucker now because we're trying to like rehearse for it live, and it's like there's no way we could ever do that
yeah.
because
Need to like
it's
an acoustic and then take it
it's
away.
finger pick. Yeah, yeah. Like you got to have an acoustic guitar and a stand. And what's
You know, I
worse
don't
is usually it's
you actually
one.
talked about this, how to use your jam man pedal. I learned that from you. I feel like it's not, depending on how long it is, right? But if it's just a little intro, I don't feel like it's cheating, honestly, to just kick on that on your pedal and tune your fucking electric guitar and then go into the song. Why the hell not?
Yeah, we have that going on,
Yeah,
but the thing is with that is you can't because we I have all the synths and stuff
right,
all like input into an SPDX, and we just hit it and then it plays.
right,
So it's really nice little piece of equipment. I'll show it to you.
cool. Love- Yeah,
That way everybody, we're hopefully, some people take away some knowledge. So this is a SPDX, and basically I'm able just it's almost like that Jam Man I used to have where I'm able to plug in USB to the computer and drop wave files into it. So this is just like this is that just beefed up to hell, like
yeah. Those
this
things.
thing holds,
You have the drummer hit that.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah,
He runs the whole thing. This is his it drives me insane. I fucking hate this thing. Like this is my enemy.
does he
And
run through a click track with that along with
yeah,
that? Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah.
I listen to a click track too when I play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when you're in ear, you have that ability because it's not coming through the monitor.
I just
It
got the
just helps me.
just picked up the
Go
in ears
ahead.
for the last couple shows we did, and just to hear myself singing easier, because like every show ever, I don't know if anyone sings, that you're always struggling to hear yourself on the monitors. It's a constant nightmare. So I just got the in ears, and it was like immediate relief. But we've never done the click track live yet.
I don't know if it's for everybody. It's mainly for us. It like started, and some people will fucking hate that I'm going to say this, but one of the worst ideas I ever had was putting synth on a haunt record. Um,
This comes
and
back
I'll
to
tell you why, because it
guys.
was like I was looking for a keyboard player and I couldn't find one. And because at first the idea was get a guy that plays keyboards and can also sing.
Yeah,
And I looked for 2 years and I found no one.
uh,
And I every time like I was like, man, I hear the keys in this song and they're not there and it's pissing me off.
yeah,
And then it got so much praise. Like Mindfree's got me the Decibel magazine cover.
right.
So it really for me it got into my head like that I should have like a lot of synthesizer in the heavy metal stuff. You guys are like I feel you've always used quite a bit. Like
Yeah, I feel like in the last like maybe 4 or 5 years, there's been this really big revival of like what do they call it, synthwave. There was, it was just
yeah.
trending. So I mean, I feel like when I hear that Haunt album, it's like it's not like It's not like there's just synth upon synth stacked through the entire album. I think it's used pretty tastefully, and that's kind of how I'd try to do it too. Where it's like it's not like a synth album, but there are
No.
parts when you need them. But I kind of feel like maybe people just appreciate it at that time because synth has kind of been popular recently. But I don't know if it'll always.
Yeah.
Who knows? Makes me think of the eras of
I don't know. I was actually, what's
Rush.
funny, I thought it was when I did it, I thought I was shit for it. I was
Right.
like, heavy metal people are not going to dig
Yeah.
this that much. Like, this is a little bit like, it might come off as a little cheesy or something, like,
Well,
but in the
of
end,
Bruce Dickinson. He's getting
in,
interviewed by some fan, like outside of a show. I guess it would have been like right before Somewhere in Time. And this fan comes out and he's like, I want to play heavy metal with a synthesizer. And Bruce is like, you can't play heavy metal with a synthesizer. And then next thing they go is and release Somewhere in Time, like right after. um, I
yeah,
feel like there was a time period where it was like totally faux pas to have synth and metal, but then you could have like prog and synth. It was just sort of weird. I kind of feel like lines like that don't really exist anymore. It's more postmodern. You can just do whatever the hell you as long as it works, which is kind of cool.
Sammy Hagar always had a keyboard player.
There you go.
And that's really why I was just like, my dad always would tell me that, like, having a keyboard player that could sing too,
Yeah,
he's like, that's when you struck gold,
yeah.
because those people, like, usually are really talented beyond to because be able to use, both hands going on, and then you're changing, all these parameters and knobs, and then singing at the same time.
Oh my god.
It's a tough job. That's why there's not a lot of guys that do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You do that, then you're definitely. Jeff in Spell can do that. He's a great piano player, except we got him playing lead guitar, so he can't play synth at the same time as that. He can sing though.
What's sonic metal?
Oh yes.
Somebody all over Xbox. Sonic metal.
Yeah, tell us about Sonic Metal. We've talked about it a little bit, I know,
I
but
don't know it.
yeah, I was talking to him a little bit about that a while ago. He showed me some riffs; they're cool. But I'm curious what your definition is of Sonic Metal, Altered Mover. Um,
Yeah, what is it? Because I've never heard of it. And then Dope says synths give dungeon
they
vibes.
can, but
Yeah,
like there's Eno, like Eno doesn't use
yeah,
dungeon
yeah.
vibes. It's
No,
that, but fuck, I love Brian Eno. But it can. I mean, dungeon
yeah.
vibes can be cool too. Like I like that stuff as well.
So I'm a fan of, like, the sound of a theremin.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of like,
But
that's one that's, like, kind of popular for me. Like, I use pretty frequently is theremin. But I like recently I've been trying to, like, actually, like, my record that's coming out. There's some synth on it. I'm not saying there is none, but I really stopped because, like, the SPDX thing, like I'm telling you right now, like, it's my
yeah,
enemy, is because uploading that thing balanced and the same it's impossible.
sounds like a nice.
It's like somebody would have to be there running it, because if your drummer's doing, he's drumming, he can't be like,
Yeah,
hold up. And it's weird, we have it fucking cocked up.
yeah,
And Hour of Witching video, yeah, dude, even still to this day
yeah.
has a good keyboard player and sings live for him.
He has a crazy everything. They-
Yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of all his shit, but, like, I've seen him play quite a few times.
you can't knock
What's
Rising.
that?
You can't knock Rising Sun.
No, I don't. I'm not gonna knock any of it. It's just I'm talking about, like, now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you go watch him.
I mean, I haven't
It's
seen.
not it.
I'd see him if I had the chance.
So my friend Brian was drumming for him for a while, and
Oh,
Fresno's a really popular stop for Yingwei.
really?
So he
Really
yeah, he's pretty popular here. He could
cool.
pack the theater. So
You guys
he
never come.
comes through. And yeah, I mean, Canada's tough, dude. I mean, even Haunt, we have our issues, like that.
Really? Why?
Seven Sisters from England,
Yeah.
new band, Entranced.
Yep. Sick
I
band.
don't know if you're familiar with Holy Grail, but
Yeah, I saw.
he was he was the singer of Holy Grail.
Yep.
Anyway, we got to the east coast of Canada, and like even though my drummer's DUI is like 12 years old,
Shit. Yeah. Yeah.
they wouldn't let him in. And I was like, 12 years? I was like, are you like, what the fuck? And so it was a really traumatic experience for me because like I was driving around Seven Sisters. I had the van, I had the trailer. Like without Haunt, there's no tour,
Oh man, borders
you
are a
know. And we had just
nightmare.
so I had to. I turned around. I had to. We had to backtrack about an hour,
Yeah.
and I there was a La Quinta, and I'm gonna tell you how much that La Quinta cost me for one night.
Jesus.
$500.
Fucking hell. That's brutal, man. That sucks.
And I was just like, I had to pay it because I had to get us to the show. And I was like, I'll deal with this later because we had to come up with the decision that the show had to go on and that we would meet back up with him at some point. Like I didn't know how I was going to do it,
Yeah.
but
Brutal.
so I pleaded. And you know what the fucking Canadian Border Patrol guy told me? He's like, "Well, if you guys were Metallica, it'd be a different story."
Fuck that. That's
And
ridiculous.
I was just like,
Man, a cop
I,
is a
and
pig is a pig. Like that. I hate that. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
yeah, it was really, it really fucking like irritated me. And then so he got deported. We had to wait for his deportation paperwork,
Jesus
which
Christ.
is like a thing. And then so and when we came back through, they were like, "Hey, weren't you guys the guys we were here for like an out 2 hours ago?" We're like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Go on through." I was like, "We could have
Yeah.
just had him back in here. We should could just fucking
Yeah. Yeah.
like
So
I
a close friend of mine, I won't say who, just for legal reasons, but he was playing in a punk band, like literally more like I think maybe 15 years ago, and he was just a kid, and he was trying to go down and do a show in Seattle, just like literally a show for beer, like a show not no one fucking makes money when they're like a teenager playing a shitty show like that, and he
no.
didn't know about what kind of paperwork he needed or whatever. They just figured, oh, we're not making any money, whatever, who cares? They just tried to drive down across the American border, and he got taken into secondary, grilled for hours, and permanently banned from America. He's never allowed back into America, and we've tried to get him back into America, and this shit costs a lot of money. Like they do all this shit, they take your money over and over again, and like a lot of money, and then they don't let you back in. So it's pretty brutal, no matter which way you look at the border. I hate it from both sides.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's not we are not a graceful country in the light of just like when it comes to border stuff like
Yeah,
it's really we have a really everything about America. We do a lot of stuff that's really dumb. We have the first off, we have the IRS, and then we have all this paperwork for visas that we make people go through. That
same.
you need a lawyer, you need this, and it's just like how many people do you got to pay? Like they trickle it down to like the
Yeah,
last thing. You try to get a fucking visa as a band by yourself to come to America.
good
Forget
luck.
it.
Well, they assume that everyone's Justin
Yeah,
Bieber. Like, I mean, he can do it just fine, but it's trouble for us. It's not worth it for us.
it's really shitty. I'm sorry that happened to him. For me, I don't have any problem with Canada. I have no fucking criminal record.
Yeah,
I pop in, but like,
yeah,
but the thing is like, what do I do about my fucking buddy? Like, I'm like, I've looked into it, and it's like, we we live in a state that you can't get a DUI off your record.
yeah, yeah. It's really
Like, if we lived in a different state, we could have it legally expunged and it's like vanishes. But
tough.
since we live in California, you can't get rid of it ever.
Well, out of curiosity, what would happen if you moved to like Nevada or whatever state you can get it expunged, and then just did it and moved back?
Yeah.
You could do that.
I think here there's weird things when you have to like set up residency in a state usually. So you have to like live there for like a couple of years generally to become
Right,
a
right.
resident. So to kind of get those legal things
Right.
maybe happening, who
That,
knows? Maybe, but it's not a simple task for us to be like, all
no,
right, we're gonna go to Nevada, we're gonna go to court, we're gonna, you know what I mean? Like that's
that's,
a fucking complicated matter,
geez.
and I'm kind of I've actually like this last six in within the last 6 months, I've actually talked to a few people in Canada, help me kind of guide me through what needs to happen.
Yeah.
So we can get some stuff done. It's just hard because we could easily get in, but we have to know the specific date. And
Yeah.
usually we don't
Yeah.
know it because
Right.
we have to you get it, it's a temporary residence permit.
Weird. What the hell?
So you're going to Canada for work related reasons where you have to stay there for a few days.
Yeah.
But you have to have the days and you have to tell them when you're going.
That
So
makes
it's like all
sense.
set up. So it's weird. And but again, like America, fucking hell, man. This place, I mean, when I get bands over here, I don't think like a lot of the bands I brought here would have got over here without the help of myself and my friend Ian,
Oh, yeah.
because we've had them we've given them information or lawyers to contact that
Yeah.
just know how to do it all. And it's like you just pay
How
them, you pay
long?
them the money,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. It's like America has this idea that if any band, any international band plays in America, then they're just taking a job away from an American band, except that's obviously not how it works. Like, if some
No.
witch comes over and plays America, it's not like there would have been an American Angel Witch that would have that's losing days of work. It's like instead there's going to be a bunch of other bands that are going to get to play a sick show and it's going to benefit everyone, but they don't get that. So
You could, you know, I tell bands all the time. I tell European bands, I'm like, don't come here looking like a band, because you know what? How many people come here for vacation? It's like insane.
yeah,
You
but
know, if
I still think even like there's a lot of bands I know that just kind of sneak across the border by not looking like a band. But honestly, it's such a risk. Like if you fuck it up, and they do often like look at your phone and like search your car and shit. If you fuck it up,
yeah,
then you're permanently banned from America for your rest of your life. That means you can't like stop over on the way to Mexico. You can't like you can't ever set foot in America, not even have a connecting flight in America. So for me, it's just like not really worth it. It's just too. I mean, America's too big and significant of a country to never be allowed to go back to.
you have dual
I
citizenship though, don't
Yeah,
you?
so they can't ban me from America. I can walk into America anytime I like, and they can't stop me. Although they do love to hassle me for extended periods, but they can't prevent me from entering ultimately. But I'm more talking about my bandmates or whoever else needs to get there. So I just try to
Yeah, that's tough. So you have it a little bit better than most Canadians just for the dual
oh
citizenship part,
way better.
because
Yeah.
when I got when I got Traveler over here, I know they had to do some work
Oh
to
my
get
god,
over
did they ever?
here.
Luckily, those guys are pretty with it. They know how to do their paperwork and stuff. But it's a massive pain in the ass. You got to have contracts from every single show. You got to have it like at least I think like 6 months in advance. You got to have your full itinerary. Then you got to send it away, and it costs thousands of dollars. Like I've done it before. I can't remember I know the price has gone up, but it probably will cost you like $4,000 or something like that. Um, and then they can choose to, and I've seen this happen multiple times. They can choose to just deny you without any without telling you why, and you don't get your money back or anything. Um,
No.
and they can deny you up till the day when you show up. And then even still, even if it all goes well, then the day after you're done, you have to be out of the country immediately the next day. And the thing that's even more fucked about it is that even if you do everything right and they accept you and everything's perfect and they love it, then after that, you until you replace your passport, you've got an expired visa in your passport, which means that every time you cross the border, they're going to be like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing with this expired visa? Are you coming to work?" And they hassle you like crazy. So there's no way.
Oh my god. It's so annoying. I don't think people realize the fucking how big of a head, like I have to go to Europe in so we fly out February 28th, and
I love that.
man,
You don't need any
am
roll.
I fucking nervous as shit, because first off, I haven't been in 4 years,
Really?
because I was there we were there literally when the pandemic was going on. We
Right.
got on a plane the day before they shut everything down. Literally one day beforehand, and I came home hella sick, man. I was tripping. I was like, I got this shit, blah blah blah. You
Yeah,
know, but oh man, was I ill? My wife was tripping. But I nothing. I just had a really bad cough. It
yeah.
was, but I was like, I don't have COVID because I kept. Well, I could have, but when I talked to a teledoctor, they're like, "Yeah, you got some like, you know, bacteria in your lungs or something, and you're just coughing up a storm." Because I didn't have like a fever or anything, but my cough was like horrible. But I am fucking, like even so Germany, I'm gonna say they like so okay, America, you gotta pay a bunch of money for a visa, right? You're gonna pay a couple grand,
Yeah, at least.
3 grand, 4 grand, somewhere around there. But here we don't keep your we don't like we don't like venues, they don't keep the taxes, they don't do withholding. In Germany, when I'm scheduled in German shows, that country, they keep the taxes from us.
Huh.
So they're like, all right, your guarantee's 100, we have to withhold like 8, I think it's like 8,
Oh, wow.
goes to the that way. That's how they avoid having to do all this work visa shit, is
Yeah,
like you work for somebody, they withhold the tax.
right, right.
So
That
I
sounds.
think the reason America does this, they make it fucked up for people, is
Yeah,
because they know a lot of people are going to come over here and not pay taxes. It's going to be
right,
all under the table or
right.
some shit. So they're just like, we can't just let everybody just fucking jump in here. It would be smarter to just withhold
Yeah,
any earnings, because like how much easier is that on everybody?
so much easier, man. Yeah, I would rather take the system any day.
I don't know why we like why think, and it's like I've always had a lot of hate for the government when it comes to just artists in general. I just think like when you're an artist, it's like there's so many complications to it. I think
Yeah,
musicians should be able just to move freely. If you're like a band, it's just to be like, yep, come on in.
yeah, man. I mean,
You know,
art
like
what
you're
makes.
you're here to have a good time and have people are gonna have a good time. You
Yeah,
guys are it's like a cultural fucking thing. Like,
yeah,
why
you're,
not? Like, why complicate it?
yeah. It's
And
ridiculous.
America's we are the worst. We are the worst. But I think that people have to look at America differently, because I've looked into it a couple times, and there's almost like 500,000 visa applications a day,
Jesus. Well, if they didn't ask
which
for.
seems insane, but
Yeah,
that's what they are dealing with. And it could be repeated visas or whatever within that, but it's an astrological amount. And it must be really complicated. It's a lot more complicated than we probably really think it is, especially when it
I,
comes down to everybody's wants
oh,
to come here for work.
yeah, yeah. It's a. I mean, it is more complicated, but it's also a self-created problem. Like if they could just cut away some categories. I mean, like Canada did that. Like when was it? 10, 12 years ago or something. Americans used to have get visas to come and play in Canada. But then one day, the Canadian government was like, "Why the hell are we doing this? Let's not do it anymore." And then they just canceled it. And then from then on, American bands have been able to. I mean, aside from like your DOI situation, which sucks,
Well,
but
guess what you guys do over there though? They withhold the tax at the show.
right, right, yeah, yeah. But they never did that to
So
me.
they
But
basically they well, not you,
yeah,
sorry. It's been they've adapted to what other countries are doing,
yeah,
and it's fine. Most bands, like, even like, I don't really like paying money or like having less money on the road, but at
yeah,
the end of the day, I'm like, as long as you're gonna book me when I come back, I don't really care.
yeah. As
You
long as you
know,
damn country, like all I'm saying is America could just choose to change the rule, Mr. Biden. They could just choose to change it. Not that they're going to. They probably never will. But Canada just up in one day decided to change it, and thank God for that.
they don't. We don't care about artists here, though. That's the thing. That's the big
Compare it to
problem.
the
Is like
dudes.
we don't like. There's no laws protecting musicians in the United States
Yeah.
anymore. There's no fucking unions. There's nothing.
Oh.
Like
Just ruthless.
they're walking all over us. Spotify is walking
Uh,
all over us. There's so many areas where there should be laws
yeah.
protecting artists a little bit more, and there are none. So that's why I don't think it's ever gonna, it's like, unless we get a president that actually fucking knows this or somebody explains it, it's nothing's ever gonna change. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
fuck, just like, just have these fucking venues withhold the tax or whatever. It's like that simple. You get paid.
It's crazy when I talk to when you heard with like Swedish bands and stuff, and they tell us what it's like for them back home, and they're like, "Oh yes, we get paid by the government to rehearse, or we get our government our rehearsal space subsidized by the government." It's like literally these bands, they get paid, they can get money. I mean, I'm sure it's difficult and stuff, to anyone Swedish who's listening and offended. I'm sure it's not easy, but I know that they can literally get paid to rehearse. They can get grants for recording their albums. They can get grants for traveling and shit like that. It's like no wonder all the coolest heavy metal bands are from Sweden. Like,
Yeah, I mean, when it must it probably feels good to be uplifted.
yeah, yeah, uplift. Yeah, take care of your goddamn people. Isn't that what the government's for? Like, find a culture that your people have, lift it up. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah.
What's going on with what do you got in store for
Sure.
2024?
Well, we got a single dropping. I think next month. It's gonna be a 7 inch. I won't say too much beyond that, but it's a song I'm pretty jazzed about. Um, and then we got a new album, which me and Al have been working on it. We pretty much got all the songs. Uh, we got the songs mostly worked out. We got to rehearse them a bunch and get ready to record them and put on the final touches. But we're gonna have a new album pretty darn soon. As soon as we can get it rehearsed and recorded. Things have been a little slower for me because I'm working full time, but I'm also in grad school. I'm trying to finish my master's degree, but that'll be finished in a couple,
Nice.
and then I will be 100% full bore working on heavy metal all the time again, which I can't wait to do. Um, but I mean, the album is still coming along, so I think it's gonna be our best album yet, and I can't wait to record it and drop it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited too because like you're kind of on the Trevor Church schedule of an album every year now.
Not quite, but we're trying to do as fast as we can. Once I finish this damn degree, then I can get in that cycle. That's what I want to do, at least as close to it as possible. It's funny, it's been
Yeah,
like
I mean, it's
for the last for the last year or so, I've actually been kind of frustrated because like normally I can write songs a lot faster, and it's just been kind of like I find I don't know if you're the same, but I find that like my feelings of like self-worth are so closely tied up into my musical output. And like if I have a dry spell and
yeah.
I just can't come up with anything for months, then I just start to really get down on myself, and like it hurts, it feels so bad. And I've been having periods like that. But then whenever I have like I just had like Christmas break where I didn't have any classes and I was off work for a bit too. And as soon as I like let my mind relax, I just started just pumping out musical ideas, and I was like, oh shit, this is all I need is just some goddamn time to play music. But it's like it's not the same when you work all day and then study all night, and then you're like, okay, I got 40 minutes to play guitar real quick, and you're already exhausted. It's like then you're not going to come up with anything good. But if you actually have
No.
your mind relax a little bit and just like let your brain focus on being a musician's brain for a while, that's when the good shit comes out. So I think just that's what I want. That's what I'm gonna have soon.
Yeah, time is everything. Time is everything, man.
Yeah, yeah,
I if I didn't have what I have here, my studio, I come out here and I can just like, I got my rack here. I'm just like, all right,
yep.
I'm gonna plug into something here and write a riff.
Yeah, man. I love your
It's that
studio. It's
easy.
beautiful. Yeah, heck yeah, yeah,
So it makes my life with so I get that. Like one thing that I found, and it might help some people that watch this in like in a writing process, if you kind of like you're like, okay, I'm gonna write something. rehearsal in my
Yeah.
regiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you've worked, you've studied, you don't have like that kind of time, an extra hour to sit there and maybe come up with
And
something. It's hard. So
ex-
I'm
ex-
I'm excited to hear what's to come for you guys, man. And where's the best place for people to check out Spell?
well, shit. I mean, we're on all the streaming stuff. You can go on Spotify or Apple Music, whatever the hell. We're on. The best place is going to be Bandcamp. It's Bandcamp or whatever it is. Bandcamp/Spell Official or something. It's Spell Official anyhow. That's the important one. And then we're on Instagram and we're on Facebook and we're recently on TikTok and YouTube. So we're trying to be all over everything. Um, so
For sure.
but be in there in the next month or so because we're gonna have something new dropping. But what I've been wanting to ask you, Trevor, is speaking of your studio there,
What's that?
I feel like your newest album, Golden Arm, was just the best sounding Haunt record, and your
Yeah.
other good, like not no knocking on those, but this new one just sounded so good. So I'm just curious, because I do a bit of recording as well, but I want to know
Mhm.
what changed on the new record. Like, how'd you get it to sound so good and different?
Well, I mean, I for one, I let I my this dude I met, Darren Trentacost, became a part of the process. So I had another person come in,
Right.
um, that would do the mixing and mastering, and
Okay.
also kind of guide me in into what I needed to do to
Right.
get everything to sound a little bit better. And I think when people hear this next record, because this will be my second record with Darren,
Yeah.
um, I think people are going to even be more blown away. Actually, Decibel hit me up yesterday about the review, and they're in like Adim, one of the guys that reviews records over there, messaged me. He's like, dude, he's like, this shit is sounding amazing right now.
Sweet. I can't wait.
And he wanted to know some information on it. And again, I worked with Darren a little bit more on that. Like I gave him some creative stuff too. I let him chop up stuff and what have you. I didn't, I was like, I didn't want, like if I'm gonna have some sort of partnership with somebody that I'm recording and doing things with, they need to be able to have a voice as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, you bet.
Like I don't care when you have 7 albums. What the fuck do you care? I'm gonna have 10 more. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
like whatever. You sacrifice a little bit in that kind of in things. So I would say that one of the biggest things that really changed was revision. Like I probably like Golden Arm probably got recorded like 4 times. Like the songs kind of changed here and there, and it was a weird record for me because a lot of the material was a lot older. I didn't I only wrote one song that was like relevant of the era of Fight the
Huh.
Good Fight. Everything else on it was 2 or 3 years
Really?
old. And some of them were just riffs I was stuck
Right.
on. And so we worked on those. So it was kind of like a producing
That.
thing to where we tried to get,
Yeah.
some
I want to talk about that.
riffs that we
Oh,
liked
one
out.
sec, man. Give me one sec. I want to talk about that partnership.
Yeah. So Darren, he's out of Vegas, and he does a lot of like multimedia work, camera work. He has a 360 degree like multi-dimensional camera, and builds these like commercials. And he also does a lot of country and pop stuff. He's not really a heavy metal guy. He is a heavy metal guy, but oh, did I lose you? Oh no, you're just not there for some reason. Anyway, so Darren is a in a band as well called Von Bolt, and just so happens Von Bolt is one of my homies as well, and that's how it all kind of linked up. And that as soon as I needed more time to write, that's really what like happened. Was it became a time thing
Right.
where it was like I need more time to write the songs than sit and mix and master. Because for me, what I was doing before, it was just me abandoning songs. I
Right.
wasn't really making albums because it was like I probably could have sit and mixed and mastered them and done a lot better, but I didn't really have. I was a lot of it is self-taught, and then talking to like Joel Grind from Toxic Holocaust, which he's like very punk rock and DIY as well, and plays all the instruments and things very similar to me. So I really like listened to a lot of input he had, and bought a lot of the gear that he has in his studio at the time.
Cool. He's got
But I decided that I was gonna spend more time writing the songs, and when people hear Dreamers, they're gonna hear that I spent more time to, just more attention to detail on them.
yeah,
The solos came out a lot better.
cool.
Um, there's a lot of, and then like I said, there's like incorporation of the acoustic guitar and the single. And I'm working on an album right now, and he's like, I think I talked to you about this when you were here. We now are using this Roland electric kit over here,
Really? Oh, cool.
and he again, like, I don't want to be the guy that's like, telling somebody like, I don't, like, I'm not going to tell him how to do his job. He's done a great job. Golden Arms sounded great. I really loved how it came out. And when people hear this, the new record Dreamers, I'll send it to you.
Sweet.
He absolutely nailed it. The vocal effects and processing he used on me sounds so natural with what I'm doing. It's almost unbelievable. We did a cover song on the album from the band Real Life, the song Send Me an Angel,
Oh,
which
yeah,
I'll never do a cover song on an album ever again. I don't want to do it. It's a hassle. It's a headache. But yeah, so I've been working on a record right now where we're using this drum set, and I will tell you right now that like it's allowed me so much freedom in, like, if I don't like something, I could really omit it and just be like, I'm starting over, and it not being a big ordeal. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't like this part, gone. And then, we sit here and write the drums on the drums, and it doesn't sound any different. So he says, what he's been telling me is that he could make this thing sound incredible. And I want to hear it. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, let me do it this way, get the electric kit, give me the MIDI notes, just write it. But we wanted the human feel though. Like,
yeah,
and that's why we had to invest in such an expensive kit. That thing was not cheap at all. It's very expensive, and dude, fingers crossed it works, because I mean, what I dropped on this thing is silly, because it lives in here, like,
yeah.
it's not. I would never bring this out to a live show
No, man.
ever. There's no fucking way. But it's a great writing tool because it allows us to, um man, I've been writing this song. I just watched, I can't remember the guy's name, but I was watching TED Talks. Is a thing about AI and warfare, and it was wild. Like, it blew my mind. This guy's parents were physicists and worked for the government. He's this super, like, just this guy just knows everything about what he's talking about with AI. And he was saying that it's like how AI is the biggest part of the warfare is the data that it collects. It's all about data, and
Right.
it was fucking insane. So I wrote this song called Artificial Death, and I actually used a sample of him talking in
Sure.
it, and like used and did some effects on it, and like made it sound like futuristic. And I'm really excited about it because my drummer's been able to come into the studio now, and we've been working together on this next record, and we've changed the chorus like 3 times, and for the better. It's
Yeah,
like every time it would evolve somehow.
that's
And I
cool.
feel like I recording situations, you don't get that opportunity sometimes to
Right.
like redo something you didn't like.
Yeah.
You didn't hear it. They make it sound good, and like, but at the same time, if you want to come up with something new that you haven't done before, anything like that, especially with rock music where it could be really the same, you know, like there's so much, it's just very formula oriented music, you know, there's no improv that just goes out of nowhere. It could, but then it
You,
doesn't make it a song, you
yeah.
know. That's like a jam. And you know, I love that I did in the early beginnings of Haunt. I'm really glad I did a DIY approach because it helped me fundamentally with the business side of Haunt because
Yep.
I wanted to invest myself as a musician, not somebody working a job. I was a hairstylist, not being a hairstylist by day, musician by whenever I have free time, like you're saying, like when you know I did hair for 18 years, I didn't have that much time to play music. I worked from like 9 to 5, and I was fucking burned out, wrists tired,
Yeah.
and you know mentally drained from talking to people.
That's the worst.
So ultimately, like trying to build your own studio, if you just have this dream of, I just kind of dreamt of always kind of having something like this. I didn't care how great it sounded or whatever. I just wanted to be able to document my ideas, you know, like that was initially what you know, the whole purpose of, you know, you have to buy a good computer, you have to buy an expensive interface, you have to have good microphones. You have to
Yeah.
then you have to have a room that has, you know, it's treated, and you
Yeah.
know, then you have to have the the thing that blows my mind now is like my whole rig right now. So when I sing now, I'm like totally wireless.
Oh, dude, I got
Like
one of
when
those.
I go
That's the exact thing I've
so
got.
I use the X Vibe. So
Yeah.
I don't use this. This is my like fly rig in-ear monitor pack. I'll show you
Yeah.
my other one.
Yeah. That one's good though. I've been using it recently, and it's pretty dope. It works perfectly. Hey,
You're gonna find though that it has some intermittent stopping when you take it out live some places. It's kind of a motherfucker. So this is the one, this is the one to get. This is the fucking Shure
but
P3RA
what's the
pack,
side
and
of it
there's
look like? Do you have to have some rack mount thing that you got to lug around everywhere?
it is, but you know, ultimately, so our little rig is over here. Our little air rig. Can you see it right here?
Yeah.
So we have the X32 down here,
Yeah.
which is this our mixer,
Yeah.
and then here's the interface right here, and like that's it. So the transmitters, there's two transmitters right here. Mine's right here. It's the PSM 300. Um, it just I could tell you this about it. The volume part is like better for some reason. I don't know how that makes can make sense to somebody, but like I feel like I get way more like when I'm turning my knob, like it has like a good variation. It's like, and I feel like this one's more digital. It's like loud, you know. I
Too loud.
like this one a lot, but I don't cut out ever with this. This is the good thing. Like in
Yeah.
the ears, like it doesn't cut out. And when I've taken the X Vibe on tour and I would have intermittent cutting out, it wouldn't be long, it'd just be real quick.
Yeah. Mine's never.
But I will tell you what, in the studio though, because these are really inexpensive in
Yeah.
comparison, this is, I think the rig for this is a grand, where I think this is like 300 bucks.
Yeah. $500 Canadian. Yeah. It sounds about right.
500 or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to sound like a fucking a dick, but I haven't paid full price for anything in so long. I
That's
don't
pretty.
even know what these go for. I think I paid 200 bucks.
Damn. That's sick.
So, but I love this because, you know, in the studio, one of the fucking motherfuckers, you're always like, if you're in headphones, which is my favorite way of listening, by the way. I love being in headphones. It makes me I don't know, it feels good. I especially like this type of
I,
headphone.
honestly, I prefer this. I prefer this the monitors. I don't know why. I don't like having clamped to my ears. I feel like the monitors, like you're listening in the room. You are. You know, it's not just clamped to your ears.
Well, the monitors, the thing with monitors though, sometimes like if you're not in the right room, your homie studio's sick. I follow Felix, and I his shit is super cool. I've definitely if I lived up there, I would like to you know, I would probably be friends with Felix and talk
Yeah.
to him, and and pick his brain because he does do a great job with you guys. So, but anyway, man, let's see here. So, Spell Official is your Instagram
Yeah,
handle.
official is yeah. It's pretty much everything. Instagram, YouTube. It's all spell. I just try to get spell official. We can get that.
So
Uh,
I hope we've never got to tour together,
no, but
and I've been trying to make it happen for years.
dude, I know. I really want it to happen so bad. It's just fucking hard, because I mean, you know how it is. Everyone has a job. Everyone shit they got to do. Everyone's got this and that. Touring is not easy for us, especially it's especially hard getting into America with all the visas and stuff, and with
Yeah.
that I mentioned earlier. But I mean, we're not going anywhere, neither are you. So we're just keep working on it until it
Oh,
happens.
I know it'll happen eventually because
Yeah,
I'm a fan of it. I think the idea of both our bands playing for the people that like the styles of music that we do be a real good night for them and be a good vibe. Like the vibe would be, you know, it's a good one, and like I know it'll happen, and I know it's super hard. It's a motherfucker to tour. People, if they, if most the common folk knew what it took to do a DIY heavy metal tour, it's a real motherfucker.
there's so many moving
You
parts that
know,
I never thought of before. But holy shit, man, it
it's
was fun when we got to play on stage together for that one song. That was just cool. If anyone doesn't know, Trevor joined us. We got to play at Trevor's festival last year in Fresno, Frozen in Time, and it was super sick. Great festival. And Trevor joined us on stage for one of our songs, and it was man, it was just so cool. We've never that was the first time we ever did the song like that with all those harmonies and shit. It was so dope, man. It just felt, and I mean, I've played a fuck ton of shows in my life, like hundreds of shows. Not probably not quite as many as Trevor, but when he jumped on stage, it was just like powerful as fuck. Like it was
Oh,
just
I was fucking so sick, man. I had so much fun with you guys. I told Al later. I told Al, I was like, damn, dude. I was like, that was fucking cool, and he was pumped too. And it was just, it was an honor for me to go up there with you guys because, like, again, I've been following your band well before there's any like Hell's Heroes was growing, and more bands like are rising in the scene, like the Visigoth and Eternal Champion and
yeah,
onto others, and Halas seem to be getting a lot of attention.
yeah,
And then you got like my tier and your tier, Haunt, Night Demon, Spell, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
all the bands that live in our area. And it's important that we all like know each other and have some sort of camaraderie, because it is a really when you go out there in the world, it is a small amount. There's not a ton of
yeah.
bands
That's why I love going
within it.
to festivals like Hell's Heroes. It feels like a family reunion. It's like you just get there, you see all the dudes from the bands, and all the people from the bands that you love. You see all the people you've met at the last festival. It's just such a. I mean, I don't know. It's just like I would never have guessed it'd be such a cool community and kind of small community, but like, man, I love going to that shit. It's so, and even anywhere you go in the world, like, fuck. I remember a couple years ago, some heavy metal show in New York. I wasn't even playing. I was just going, and a bunch of people were like, "Hey, Bell," and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I recognized them too from some other show we'd been at together, and that just felt amazing. It was like anywhere you go in the world, you're gonna meet cool heavy metal people if you're part of that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody said to me today that they told me, they're like, "Fuck, Trevor's already on episode 5 of this." I'd already have ran through all my friends, and I was like, getting a tour van for 10 years, and I guarantee you that number will elevate real quickly, because like I've been to so many places
Yeah,
and met so many bands, and always, because I don't get fucked up. So, like, I don't drink alcohol, so
yeah,
like I never cause a scene, so I'm always
yeah,
very approachable and friendly, and like, I'll smoke some weed with everybody, but
yeah.
like I don't have like some, like, I don't know, like some drunk people just really
I mean,
give me a bad
yeah,
vibe.
yeah. I'll
So
try to
I've
keep.
always kind of, tried to be, I always remember, like, you need these bands. These are your brothers, because
Yeah,
like when you go to their city, you want to be able to play a show with them in their hometown where they can, it's like a, like you said, like a family reunion type thing, like that kind of thing is super important. That's why I did the festival here in Fresno that I'm trying to do.
Hmm.
Um, just so I can get my friends together and play a show. It's a real motherfucker. Like this year, it's
I'll
way
bet.
smaller.
Oh yeah,
I'm not doing 2 days. That shit killed me, especially alone. I was like, yeah, this.
dude, it's
I'm
so
not a promoter. I've never been a booker of shows. I've always just like had friends that did that. They book shows, and like my booking agent Ian, he's one of my buddies. He's not like he works for a booking agency, but we were friends
yeah.
way before. He's always booked, and so I've never really had to like go through the process of like you know, putting something together like that, like
Oh, smart.
contacting the bands, making sure everybody got their money
Yeah,
and everything, it was a heavy responsibility. I had two Canadian bands, I had you and Traveler.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, I had to make sure that you guys didn't have a bad time,
We, we
because
had a,
then it looks
we had such a good
it,
time.
it would it would reflect it would have reflected badly on me. And so it was like I put a lot of pressure on myself on that level. And because I was like, fuck man, this is people that do that shit.
Oh man,
It's a tough one. i
yeah,
i don't i don't get it. I don't understand it. They must really love music because it
yeah.
is such a pain in the ass.
Dude, the amount of people that are out there doing that shit, from booking bands to doing art to like driving bands to doing merch, even playing in bands, like 99.9% of the people are not making any money, and they're just doing it out of pure love for the art. And man, I have so much respect and gratitude for that. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's keeping the spirit and the flame of it all. And I can name some people that are really key to this.
Yeah.
Bob Byrne out in Chicago,
Bob,
Randy
if you're listening,
Kastner,
you're
and
goddamn
then Deborah Levine, and then obviously Christian Larson doing
yeah,
Hell's Heroes is like huge. Those, and it's kind of sad that I could count it. Oh wait, there's a festival in Connecticut now, Stormbringer.
oh yeah,
They've
Stormbreaker.
done a couple now.
Yep.
I can't think of, but
I'm around.
anyway,
Yeah.
there's only a handful, and it seems, but that's great because I feel like there's some growth to it. It's just like, but again, it's hard to do when I like to think that the only California thing is my thing is almost weird because there's like LA, San Francisco are such like meccas of music,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yet they don't have anything like it.
yeah. I know it's
I
unreal.
guess LA, we had Gates of Metal,
Right.
which kind of the only thing with me with it was there was too many like old bands and not enough new ones to really
Yeah.
like. I feel like they could have just had. I'm like, in
Um,
my mind right now, if you want success in an underground festival, it's like basically copy what Christian's doing with
exactly.
Hell's Heroes,
Christian is doing it right.
because that's a blueprint in the way that I did Hell's Heroes 1, 2, 3, and 4. I did it 4 times. The first one, there wasn't a near it was nothing like what people see in the pictures of him showing the one that's coming up.
Right.
It was all inside. The first year, all the merchandise was inside as well. And the floor on the bottom, it was like that room was half filled. But when everybody got up to the top room, that's where it was hot. We played up there, and I was so glad we played up there because I felt like the energy in the room was so much better. But the next year, Hell's Heroes 2, dude, it like doubled in size
It's like it's doubling
by
every year.
year 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really becoming the thing to go to here in the States. And I've been trying to convince him because he's a really good friend of mine. He's I'm gonna have him on the show
Sweet.
eventually here, but that's I'm just scared that he and I the conversation will be like 5 hours. But because there's so much to talk about with him because it is wild. He does like 2 bands, Necrofire, and Night Cobra,
Yeah.
and he used to play in Venomous Maximus, and
Yeah.
that's how I met him is through Venomous Maximus. And to think that he took that first little thing that he did, and it started Haunt, by the way. He's the one that made me like the story with him and Haunt is insane in its own. He has a lot to do with me even becoming a band because I was alone. I didn't have a band. Solo. I played everything. And he's like, yo, I'm doing this festival. I need Haunt to play.
Yeah. Nice.
And I was like, I don't know, man. So it's become like Haunt. We've been fortunate enough to play all of them. So I've got to see the evolution of the
That's
festival as a musician. And I will say I am sad to miss it this year. We would have been on it. We're always could be on it. But we're gonna be in Europe. We haven't been in a long time, like I said, and I'm fucking frightened of going there.
dude. It's gonna be good.
But
Europe is always so good. I love going to Europe.
I'm so fucking worried about all things. Like just not having all my shit. Like I've been so spoiled the last 2 years of just touring America and having the luxuries of home. You know what I mean? It's like I have my amp, I have my vehicle, I have like, as many clothes and things as I want,
They're gonna take such
you
good. It's
know.
gonna be amazing.
They do. No, I know they take care of you. It's just hard. It's just different when I don't have just certain little comforts. My amp, I'm just tripping on right now. I don't even know
Yeah.
what I'm going to be using over there, and that's
They'll help.
kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I've been talking to Ingle, who I have an endorsement with, and they're trying to get me this little amp. They're trying to convince me to get this 20-watt head they have, and like it's crazy. It's like XLR out on the back, and like reverb, delay, gate on the back of the head. It's pretty wild, but I haven't gone into this world of neural DSP
Yeah.
processing yet. The quad core. You know what I'm talking about? That
I've,
shit.
I've never tried it. I never.
I don't. It's complicated. I don't even really know how to even explain it. My guitar player just got one,
Okay.
but apparently you program your tones and
Yeah.
you just plug into the power amp of an amp and that's it.
I'm sure it works. I'm sure it sounds good. I feel like probably like a few years ago, I would have been really biased against that sort of shit. I would have been like, only tubes, man. But nowadays, I just feel like whatever's easiest. Like, if you can travel and do extra shows, do cool. You have something that fits in your bag, then why the fuck not, man? Like, don't like tube amps are so heavy and expensive. I still love them, but man, you got to do what's easiest. You got to do what's most reasonable.
So I'm gonna end the conversation on one thing because I got to get inside pretty soon here. I got to take Rex to school in the morning.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um, I, it's very difficult. Like, I don't have a gimmick for myself. I've never really been into it either. Like, I don't know how to present it. Like, I'm jealous of bands like, Ghost, that it's just like, it's so natural and looks so good and like it's done so well. Like, I don't think I could pull something like that off. Like, I've never had that. I'm like, I don't know what I would want to be. You know what I mean? Like, it's very complicated.
yeah.
And just recently we built these risers that we stand on that
You should,
have like lights and they shoot fog up, right?
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, we could do shit like that, but there's only so many things to do with that. And I was like looking back in time at what production was for heavy metal bands back in the day,
yeah,
and almost 90% of it was just fucking wall of amps.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was the production.
yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I was like, I think I need, I think I want to go back to that. Like, I think I want to fucking have. I'm gonna bring a full stack on the next U.S. tour
You can do that at US.
because I feel like two full stacks just make like it just looks big. It's like fascinating when you see like large things.
Especially if you get dummy.
And yeah, you don't have to have it plugged in.
Yeah,
Like I'm just saying on a production level, it
yeah,
just looks cool.
yeah, it does.
And it's like I was like, and I've also noticed like with Spell, you don't have a lot of gimmicky. There's no gimmickiness to you guys.
Yeah.
You know, you're not like painted up and like dressed up in a like a costume. I know you guys wear nice clothing and boots
Like,
and
think of what
the
Lemmy said when he's like, when people come to a show, they don't want to see like some dude that works at the corner store. They want to see like some, some freak from another planet. So like, yeah, sure, we could do it more, but I mean, I always try to put on something different when I walk on stage than it's not or when I got out of bed in the morning. You know, but at the same time, it's not like we're not Kiss or Ghost or one of these bands that has like I see what you're saying. It's not like a whole shtick. Even
do
like how
you think bringing back the big amps is like
oh, I think it looks
something
cool.
that should be done?
I think it looks cool as fuck. I feel like if you can do it, do it. But at the same time, if you can't, like, I think you shouldn't get hung up on it. Like, if you're flying to Europe, you don't, not that you would ever do this, but you don't want to be in a situation where it's like, I'm not going to play a show if I can't have my full stacks, you know? But if you're
Bro,
like,
the idea of me showing up to the show with a fucking 20-watt head that's like a lunchbox
yeah, man, I don't know.
is
Well, yeah,
it kills my soul.
yeah,
And so does like having this like quad processor thing or with power amps. I'm just like, you know, I'm still kind of like a believer. I like what an amp company makes an amp. What
yeah,
I wonder what that sounds like, and then I put my effects that I
yeah,
like to it.
yeah,
And it's weird to me to like program it all. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You can sound the same everywhere, but like,
yeah.
there's something about not having the fucking
Yeah, and even Rush, like when Rush got rid of their
yeah,
amp on stage, they did hilarious shit. Like they put washing machines on stage, and they put like rotisserie on stage. Just because that was like the elephant in the room that they don't. What the hell do you have if you don't have amps? But let me tell you my philosophy on it real quick. I feel like the coolest music will always be the music made by like the broke kids that don't have anything. Like it'll always be made by the underdogs. And back in the day, back when like you and me were teenagers and shit, what was the cheapest, easiest way to be in a band? Well, it was probably to get some like shitty amps from the pawn shop. He probably had some like basically shitty solid state amps, and he had like a couple mics into a 4 track. That was how I started. That's probably how you started too. And it's
I don't
not
know. I mean, my dad's Bill Church is Sammy
okay.
Hagar, so
Right, fair enough. Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. I forgot
I
about that.
we
Probably
we did have gear at the house. I
yeah.
didn't know what good gear meant at the time, though.
Okay, yeah.
You
So
know, and when he's like, "Here's this SVT," you're like,
yeah, yeah.
at the time, I'm like, "This ain't a Marshall, bro. Like, what is
Right.
this?" But now it's sitting over here in the corner. I have it all
That's
these years
I
later.
got out of that thing and it was so badass, man. Holy fuck. But anyhow, I think that the best tunes are always going to come from the underdogs and from the kids who
Yeah,
have. And for a time period, that was shitty amps from the pawn shop and a shitty 4 track. That's not what it is anymore. Nowadays it's a little different. Nowadays it's like kids are making 6 songs just recorded onto their iPhone. And it's like you don't have to have
yeah,
machines because that shit is expensive as fuck. You don't have to have like a huge. I mean, it's great if you have a huge studio room. Obviously, that shit sounds amazing. And if I had, when I'm lucky enough to have the choice, that's what I'll go for. But like, I'm always gonna have respect for the music that's made with no budget by a bunch of like 17-year-olds who have fucking nothing. And
yeah.
that used to be like shitty combos. Nowadays, it's probably some shitty like amp modelers on your computer. So it's like I'll never be. I mean, I might not choose to use that shit, but I'm not going to be biased against it because if that's what broke motherfuckers are using, then that's going to be making some cool shit. So that's what I think.
Absolutely. No, no, for real. There ain't nothing wrong with I mean, dude, if I have to think of the struggles and the things that we did cuz like even though my dad was in the Sammy Hagar band, he didn't have any money. So we were poor cuz he's a bass player, didn't write the songs, so
Yeah.
you don't write the songs, you don't get the big old paycheck. But
Right.
but I did get to see how it was done, and that
Yeah.
was kind of like that was the homework. Like I had to go to band practice with them, so you realize like, oh, you have to have band practice. Like if you're a band, you're practicing. Like
Yeah.
and and it was interesting because like my first guitars were really I had a Memphis, so I didn't have like a great one, but it's funny because Memphis now is actually they sell for a lot more than what they used to, but little Japanese, Nagoya, Japan brand Stratocaster, and I was like 7, and I played drums too. So it was like I I had to like work like my dad kind of made me build my way up to a Les Paul. It took a long time. I don't think I got a Les Paul till I was 21.
Okay,
That
nice.
was like the 21 like here, you're they got me a Les Paul. Like that's how long it took. It's like there was some shitty ones in there, but it's way easier now. And the big struggle of being a musician nowadays, especially one that plays an instrument, is it's not the most popular form of music out there.
Yeah,
Um, and it's like really hard to make a living doing it. Like I would have to, if I didn't print my own records and sell them directly to my fans through the internet, like I would have to have a day job. The
yeah,
reason I don't have one is literally simply for the fact that I spend enough money. Like I have enough money to spend to do a proper record pressing where you can get the cost down to where like okay, like now I can make a living, like I don't have to go do hair anymore. I can just focus on being the songwriter and then just ship shit out.
yeah, and that's so much
And
work mailing shit out all the time too. Holy fuck.
oh, it's horrible. People don't even understand what it's like for me, man. Like it's a fucking the road I picked is a really hard, challenging one, but I wouldn't have it any other way because it's made me really respect a lot of things and a lot of values that have been lost. And that's another thing, like when I could say to people like, the way we consume music through streaming is it's boring. Like I
Yeah,
find it like boring because there used to be a thrill to looking at an album cover and being like, I wonder what the fuck this sounds like.
yeah, I love
I
that.
want to hear this. And I've always put artwork, very, very focused artwork, and I've always worked with artists that understand my how I want it to look. Because like in my mind, I want to look to where when somebody sees my album cover, they just want to hear it. You know, like, but I feel like it gets lost on the internet sometimes because it's
Well,
like
the album cover gets shrunk down to like a tiny thing, you can't even see it.
that you don't look in it. But the thing is I'm doing something this year to kind of make things just to throw a wrench in the philosophy. um my next record is not going to be on Spotify, but what I've done is the cost of the digital album is $5, which is like really low for a full album
Yeah,
digitally if you go look around. So I'm kind of like trying to like express that like hey, the buy like you have to support the artists in their craft, because like streaming, you're not getting it, like you're not understanding the full spectrum of it. There's no excitement by it.
yeah,
I'm not going to just give it to you, you know what I mean? It's like it's not like here, I'm going to put the singles up there so they can hear the ones that are like there's videos for it, so it's going on YouTube
right.
anyway,
Okay, yeah,
you
yeah,
know and the album will be on YouTube, but so it can be streamed. I'm not like removing it from everything. It's mainly just like Spotify. And it's we have to take I just wish people would see that we could make music, like the artists get taken care of. I feel like too many people are caught up doing too many other things to where they can't focus on what they really want to do in their lives. And that saddens me. It's like if somebody wants to be a musician, they should be able to be a musician somehow.
I hear you,
You
man.
know,
Yeah, you're talking to me.
like yeah, like band. Like if we were around like 40 years ago, we would be pretty well off dudes at the size bands we have right now.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
No, seriously. I mean, we wouldn't be like driving in Ferraris,
No, I don't need a
but
man. I just want to live my goddamn
we
life.
would have we would be able to do some we would be able to have a little bit more freedom to be our artist selves.
Yeah,
And I want people to know that they need to support the bands. Like Spotify doesn't this the way that streaming works is not set up for people to
no, man, it's
succeed.
ruthless.
And it's fucked up. And I hate to watch people, amazing talented people, wither away because they can't get through this, like the world because it doesn't pay. And I
Yeah,
fear, like my son, what do I tell my son? I'm like, yeah, bro, you have to, like, 1 million fucking listens gets you 3 grand, and then you got to pay taxes and a
yeah,
digital distributor fee on top of it.
and a
And
million no
it
small.
can really be overwhelming. And it's like, I worry about the next generation of musicians heavily because it also makes it to where there's so much on there, and if it wasn't on there, it makes it a little bit more exciting.
There's a lot of bullshit on there. It's true. There's no filter. There's not like, it's you got to listen to so much crap in order to get to the good stuff. I mean, partly because anyone can put their shit on there if they're not expecting to get anything out of it. But the people who do need to get something out of it can't get anything out of it either. It's a double edged sword.
And I don't think any musician, when we got into music, nobody ever thought about, you don't think about money when you're starting as a musician.
I,
It's not something we go, I'm going to be rich and play guitar. I guess maybe some people have done that, but for
yeah,
me it was more like I just
you're hype.
stumbled upon it. I just loved playing guitar. I
Yeah,
wanted to have a band. I wanted to have like friends like that on the weekends. What we did, we learned a song, we learned a Metallica song, we would
yeah,
do something together in a room. There was nothing other than that. And like it just, some of us become songwriters and become, like you, every step of the way there's new responsibilities that happen to where you are.
yeah,
And I'm at a point now where it's too late for me to look back. I can't do
yeah,
anything else now.
yeah.
This is a focus point. It's like, well, I left my career of 18 years behind to go do this. So now I have to follow it through. So there's a lot of things to it. And sometimes I'm jealous of, like, you guys get to work with Will and Bad Omen and stuff. I'm like, it'd be nice to not have to talk to the fucking, vinyl brokers and then all the people in the art division to do all the approvals and those things, that tie me down sometimes, which is a motherfucker. But anyway, dude, I'm gonna roll. I gotta get some shut eye. But everybody check out Spell. Thank you for talking to me, man. I seriously, we could probably go on forever.
Dude,
So that's why.
I was going to talk to you about. We'll talk to you about another time.
Oh no, let's talk about it. If you got stuff
Well,
written there,
oh, dude, you got it.
do it.
We'll get a chance to
No,
talk.
we're good. No, tell me. Tell
Well,
me.
sure.
Now's
We'll
the
talk about it
time.
before you got to go to bed. I'm not trying to keep you
No,
forever.
now's the time. I'm gonna roll one right now. Get
All
that
right.
list out.
So one other thing
Let's
I
get
wanted
it done.
was you were briefly getting into it, but with this, you were talking about kind of like delegating with your new dude who's sort of like helping you with recording and doing a bit of producing and shit.
Darren.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think about a lot because like I think you and I both like we kind of do a lot of songwriting on our own, and
we do.
but I always like have I've always think about people like you're Lennon McCartney, you're like you're Simon and Garfunkel,
Yeah.
Buckingham Nicks, these like powerful songwriting partnerships, and like fuck it's kind of fascinating to me, and I do feel like you can do a lot on your own, but when you get someone who's another perspective that you can really trust, it can kind of, well, I mean, it can kind of make things three-dimensional. And I do get that a lot with Al, where like I might bring in a song, and a lot of the time, sometimes I'll write a song, and I'll be like really hyped on it, and I'll bring it down to the jam space and show it to Al, and we'll try it out, and then he'll just kind of like won't, he's not like a dick or whatever, but I'll just be able to tell he's not digging it. And then 90 the time I'll go home and I'll be like, shit, and sometimes it really hurts in the moment because you're like, fuck, you just wrote a song, you really love it. But then I'll go home and I'll be like, shit, he was right. And then I'll have to like just grind harder and like make that song better. Or like, eventually you realize which are the weak links and you kind of filter those out and bring and work on it again and make some new. So it's like I kind of have it a little bit, but I'm kind of curious about exactly how you're doing it with your band and how you like like do you bring in the songs, then your band kind of like your drummer and producer kind of like tells you which shit needs to be better, or like comes in, what if like they come in with a new, like sometimes Al will come in with a new drum groove that I haven't imagined before, and it flips the song on its side, something like that.
Yes, yes, yes. I was gonna say I could only really speak of. So my new album's already
Yeah,
done. I like, for me to talk about. I have to talk about what's
yeah,
current in order for you to understand, because I've done a little bit of I've pretty much done every which way under
Right.
the sun with things in my life. But right now, um what we're doing is I picked like a batch of songs that I have. I usually try to there's usually like one or two that I'm just like really in love with, that I'm like, this is gonna go, we're gonna go play this, because we play a lot of stuff from our past,
Yeah.
the back records, and the shit that the people want to hear that don't
You gotta do.
that aren't up to album 7 yet.
Yeah, yeah,
um but anyway, so I just pick I have like a couple, and then I'll find some ones that are like challenging, that aren't like really put together. Like there's might just be a one part that I like I just wrote one riff. Like when I look for it on the computer, I'm like, okay, there's the riff, and then there's nothing else,
yeah. I got a couple like
and
that.
try to actually build the song around that.
Yeah.
That's a real interesting one, because what I'm trying to do now is write the whole song in the moment, like the
Right.
entire fucking thing,
Yeah.
which is something I've never really I usually, sometimes I did and sometimes I didn't. But what we're doing right now is I wrote all the music. I play the drums on it myself. I'm a drummer. I can play drums pretty fucking. I'm not bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've had a lot of practice to the click track, and if you look at how many albums I have, that's a
Yeah.
lot of click track.
That's a lot of.
You're gonna get decent. You know what I mean? I would not call. I'm definitely not Al. You know, I really love Al's taste. I'm very straightforward. Like I try, like in my mind, I think of like guys like Denny Carmassi from like, Montrose, Gamma, Heart, his and Coverdale and Page, and he's very, he very simple but effective.
Shout out
And that's kind of
art too.
how I
Yeah.
kind of try to do it on my own. But
Yeah.
then Andy will come, and he will, like you were saying, he'll play a different beat to it. Like I'll just have him jam to it and just press record, and like see what he does differently on an like just improvise.
Right.
And sometimes we come like sometimes it's just exactly the same with what I would have played. And then like we'll get to another part where he'll do like halftime. So we've
Yeah.
been adding a lot of halftime in, which is kind of weird for me, but at the same time, like I'm like, well, let's give it a shot. So there's not a lot of delegation in the guitar area. The
Right.
guitar area is like, it's basically I could say, hey, do a solo, and hopefully I get one. If I don't have one within a week, I can't hear the song. Like I want to finish it. So if I ask somebody for a solo, any guitar player in my past, and I didn't have something to put on the computer within a reasonable amount of time, which I thought a week or two was plenty of time,
Hmm.
then I do the solo, and that's that.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I roll with it. It's like I don't want to wait that long to finish a song. So I don't really, with guitar, I've never listened to anybody. So like there's nobody working with me on that side, other than maybe Darren being like, throw some delay on here, throw some chorus on here,
Right.
like stuff like that, or use the 5150, because we just reamp everything. So I just record a dry signal, and then we just plug into the amps. That way
Yeah.
it's already perfect, and we don't have to go through all the that process. Is just done. There ain't no mistakes, easy. So that part, that's about really it. The reamping is all done here at my studio. And then sometimes we'll use he has a Kemper, so he'll profile some stuff sometimes, find tones on the internet, and he'll use those. I know he's done a few like that. And then
Days you can't even
as
honestly.
far as bass goes, Sam is the first bass player to play on one of my records in a really long time.
Cool.
My first bass player, Taylor, he would play, but I'm not gonna lie, like he did a really bad job on Mind Freeze, and like nobody could hear this, but on Light the Beacon, there's this little scale, and it's so weird because like he's not playing the same thing as we are. He actually played it wrong. So
Huh.
like he really rushed it, but I wanted everybody to kind of have a um just to be a part of it. They're in my
Yeah.
band. Like it's hard. Like there's there's still that like 16-year-old Trevor in here that wants to be in the garage with my friends, drinking beers and just jamming.
Yeah,
But the reality comes to it. I'm a 42-year-old married man with a child that like has like I'm just obsessed with heavy metal and I
yeah.
can't stop.
I hear you, man.
So
I hear you.
so it's like I just do the things the way I have to do. But with Darren, um, I'm gonna be sending him everything pretty soon, and like I said, he's gonna have a lot of control over the sonics of this record, especially giving him the drums the way that I'm giving them to him. We're writing them all humanly because, like, I just feel like anytime you sit there and you just like program something, the
Yeah.
velocities and the way it's hit is too.
Oh man, you gotta have a
It's
drum.
too the same.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
too the same. And even though we've always used like drum replacements and triggers on kicks and things to get it bigger,
yeah.
um, always all your acoustic shells are still all in the room. You know what I
Well, the
mean? Like,
drum is just too beautiful of an art to not have a human doing it. It's like saying, like, sure, you could have, the fucking Mona Lisa, or you could just ask AI to paint it. Like, just get a fucking
yeah, no,
beautiful and have a fucking
it was
artist.
a big, it was a big no. I really put a lot of this getting this drum set situation and doing because he's in Las Vegas, he's not in
Right.
Fresno, so we
Oh,
have to do everything remotely. So
right.
that's another reason more of a main
Right.
great job with it's very difficult to even get to that point to where you could like say like I need this guy, like this dude's he's basically, as far as I'm concerned, he's a member of Haunt, you know,
Great. Yeah.
but he's just not seen on stage.
Yeah. The fifth.
But he's gonna take it. He told me he's like, I'm gonna be able to take it to the next level this way.
I believe it.
He's like, so that's what I'm curious on that. So like I've allowed a lot more. Sam is gonna the hard thing is like we have a 24 song set that we keep as a thing we practice. We don't play that many, but that's how many songs when we rehearse we have to do. So there's a lot, going on behind scenes with the know a big catalog and then to
Yeah.
learn another catalog quickly for people is hard. That's why I've been able to move at the rate I've moved in the past is that nobody else is in the room with me.
Right. Right.
So I could just you know.
Yeah.
But Sam has to learn all the material. I've had this shit written for a long time. Nothing that I write, nothing that anybody hears is relevant to me. It's fucking 2, 3 years old by the time when I wrote it to the point where they're actually hearing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how old the material is. Like I'm working on a whole other batch of songs right now. Like I have tons. I have another record I'm working on. It's not. I'm always writing a record. So when I say I'm like working on a new album, it's like I have enough songs for an album and more.
Yeah.
Some of them are just so much more closer to being done. They
Right.
have guitar solos, they have intros, they have all those little things. But yeah, so Darren is become a um and again, when people hear the new record, they're gonna be like, man, that guy mixed this really, really well. And I really am proud of like the work done on it. It was a definitely a more effort put into it on my part. Like I said, like I would go back and re-sing something like I
Yeah.
wouldn't like it. I'm still kind of self-producing in the light of like it's weird. I must do a decent job because I don't get a lot of criticism on certain things. They're like, oh, there's a melody hook, but I might not like it. I go back and I go, no, fuck
Yeah.
no, don't like this. Like I could sing this differently or something. But I also have my dad, who is he has platinum records, gold records, and he worked with Keith Olsen at Sound City Studios, and Keith Olsen's super legendary. And my dad, he's basically taught me how to do a heavy metal song, like a heavy metal pop song, because he worked with heavy metal pop producers.
Yeah.
And it was like he was really hard on me on my voice in the when he first heard, because like when he first heard Burst into Flame, he was like, you should have done this here. You should have taken it up there. Like he's like, you can't do it the same all four times. You got like every other. So I got into this formula of every other, like, and there's, so like at the end, you always have to like give it something. So he taught me a lot of things that have helped me, that I put into my arsenal over the time, because it's hard. It's hard to be a player and the singer. It
Yeah.
really,
Singing is hard as hell, man. Singing is so difficult. No matter.
yeah, and it's not simple at all, dude. It is fucking mind-boggling. So when you think about like trying to do something harder and then you're playing, you're just like, oh fuck.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I kind of had to like evolve to it, but I feel like his help as himself being a producer for many years and working with the best, Ted Templeman, Keith Olsen, the stuff that he's bestowed upon me on songwriting, and like how like a song should be and how long a song should be and things of that nature. What this he always told me, one of the things that he's told me for my whole life is, you anytime you have two guitars and do a dueling lead, you're in. Like it's like, for some reason, that is just heaven to people's like souls. It
it just
just gets
great.
to anybody. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. And so I always was like, I have to have two guitar players, because like you can't, you could do it on a record, but if you don't have another guitar player, you can't do it live, where
yeah,
live it's like even more effective.
yeah, yeah. It really works. It's such a great tool, man.
So
Yeah,
he was big on the two guitar thing. He still like, he really is weird about drums. He hates drum rolls. Like he feels like the less drum rolls in a song, the better. Which
huh.
is hard. It's a hard one for me. Like I'm like, I don't know, man. But then I go back and I'll listen to fucking Montrose with Ted Templeman, and I'm just like, it's just da 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 do do do. It is. I mean, there is not a lot of crazy shit going on. Like, and it made me think, and I'm like, maybe there's something to all that, but I don't know. But that, I don't know. I still, like I said, that's a battle. I've been letting Andy do his thing here, and I've been working on all the edits and all the fills, and it's weird how we're doing drums right now. I'm not gonna lie. It's bizarre, because the fact that you could just kind of sit there and play like 20 different takes of a drum roll is mind-boggling.
That is it.
You
It
know,
yeah.
you can you because like I might not like, it's like weird, because I just go through so many. But anyway, what's on this list? I'm gonna light this up. We got to
Sure.
get to this
Actually,
list.
we've talked about a lot of this stuff. Actually, we talked about yeah, we talked about like the output, like how much records we're putting out and stuff, and the different, how difficult that can be and what it's like. We talked about lyrical themes. I want to give a shout out to my homies in Cauldron, because when I was a kid, when I was first starting my first bands back in like, well, I first started my bands kind of in the early 2000s, but when I was first starting Striker and Spell in like 2007 or something like that, Cauldron was just coming out, and I was so inspired by their types of lyrical approach.
Oh, dude, they're the best. They're the
Yeah,
best. Yeah, big shout out to Ian and
yeah,
Jason.
totally.
Um, oh, they do not get the credit they deserve.
They really do.
Period.
Songs just, not only the songs sick, but just like the types of shit they were writing lyrics about really hit home for me. It just felt so relevant. And fuck, I mean, I'm really, really tempted to go into Hell's Heroes to see them this year. I just might end
Oh
up.
my god.
I'm not planning on it yet, but that's the big thing that's drawn me there.
I would love to see Cauldron again. And when they played Hell's Heroes, they actually, Ian and Jason used my guitars.
Oh, really?
So
That's
Ian used, and it's funny because the guitar that Ian used, I sold to Lars Fredrickson of Rancid recently,
that's hilarious.
which is kind of funny. But I let Jason play my bass, and I asked him after he was done. I was like, "What do you think?" He's like, "This is the best bass I ever played." But I
Yeah,
don't know if he was bullshitting me. But I was
yeah,
like, "Really?" But it looked good. It's this bass right
yeah.
here,
I've
and you
played that.
can't deny the sexiness of a
No,
BC Rich Eagle.
hell yeah.
It
So
has a
okay,
good little thing.
so let me
Yeah.
ask you one.
Anyway, go on. You're
I'll ask
giving a
you one more
shout
thing.
out to Cauldron.
Yeah, yeah. Here's the last thing from the list. I mean, there's a few other things. We'll talk another time. But you got to take your kid in the morning. I got to go fucking teach at school. I got to go teach the kids in the morning. So here's the last thing for you. Um, I was thinking lately about this idea of gatekeeping in heavy metal, and there's a lot of I feel like it's something that gets talked about a lot these days. Fuck the gatekeepers. We don't, and I'm on board with that. We don't want to be like, you know, no one likes the, well, you're wearing the Slayer shirt, name 3 songs or whatever. Like, you can't be part of the heavy metal club because
Yeah.
that's a bunch of bull.
Yeah.
But I was kind of thinking, and tell me if I'm way out to lunch on this, but like I was kind of thinking maybe there's a bit of another side to it. Like I remember being a kid in high school and I definitely had a shitty time in high school. I was on the outside. I got beat up a lot, um,
Yeah.
it just kind of really sucked. And I didn't really have any friends. I just kind of wandered around by myself. And I got my Discman, and I put on my heavy metal. So I put on Iron Maiden CD, and for me, listening to heavy metal was really like it really made me feel like I had something that was not something that everyone else had. It made me feel like there was something I could do. I mean, I guess I'm just talking about counterculture or like alternative culture or whatever. But it made me feel like
Yeah.
there was something that wasn't for everyone else, that everyone else didn't have access to. And it's not like I was trying to prevent everyone else from being part of it, but like maybe no one else wanted to be part of it or something. I don't know. So I'm just thinking with regard to this gatekeeping stuff, like, is there a place where you know, heavy metal can be not exclusionary, but um, what's the freaking word I'm looking for? Exclusive or something like maybe it doesn't have to be for everyone. Maybe it is something that's kind of for weirdos or outsiders or people that aren't part of the mainstream in a way. Can it be both? What do you think?
Okay. So I have a whole
Yeah,
thing, and it'll probably make sense to a lot of people. So I feel you there because again, we are not far from the fucking tree of where we fell off.
yeah,
You and I, very similar people. Um, I feel like in let's just think of it as a heavy metal gang.
yeah,
Okay, we're a heavy metal gang because we like it came to us because of music. It wasn't like there was no people. Like the music was our friend. It
yeah,
was what got us through our day-to-day things. I mean, I will tell you right now, one of my favorite things to do when I was a teenager, I would put the lyric book on top of my entertainment center. I would have my guitar and I would jam and try to sing. But I mean, like the bands, like the band that did it for me was the Misfits, though. So it wasn't even heavy metal, but Danzig was
oh,
metal, though.
yeah,
So it really like bled into one another, for me. But anyway, there's dues that have to be paid. I'm a believer in dues paid. Okay, like the guy that's coming in with the Slayer shirt that can't name 3 songs, it's not, you don't treat them badly because they're wearing a Slayer shirt. They obviously like have found something new and they're excited about it, and you don't want to be some fucking dickhead come in and go do 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 or anything like that, right? But like you make them work for your friendship a little bit. You're not like rude to them or anything, but be like, you got to go to more than one show. You got to, what's up? Like you see them out, or do they have a band? Are they playing? Are they trying to like do shows or like help, promote other bands within it or whatever the case may be. You give everybody a shot and I feel like if they are around enough and they make themselves useful to the community and the heavy metal community, then by all means you're in the club, and it doesn't take long. It's like just show you're down. Show us that like you're, because if I see some poser ass motherfuckers, I mean, everybody's a fucking poser at some point in time. I
yeah,
mean, not you don't just walk out the door one day and you're like a cool fucking heavy metal rock star. Like there's a little, you got to grow your hair out, you got to get your leather jacket,
Yeah,
there's like there's a rites of passage to all this, and it's a beautiful rites of passage. And a lot of us, we feel, you know I don't, when it becomes very mainstream, there is some like corniness to it all, but it's like, I don't know, like, I don't think you shouldn't ever knock anybody for not knowing everything about everything. Like sometimes, like I don't know everybody's song's name. I mean, I can name fucking Slayer, but like that's different. I look at it as like maybe on the more underground scale, the traditional heavy metal bands, if they didn't weren't familiar with them, that would be kind of weird if they're trying to get into that thing. There's a number of weird things, but I think it all comes down to just like dues paid, going to shows, meeting the bands, and like putting yourself out there and just becoming friends. Because like
yeah,
but I feel like we don't even live in that society anymore. I feel like that is my generation on how that worked for me. Like
okay.
there was dues to paid, and there's still dues to pay. I'm still not, my dues ain't paid, man.
Always
Like
paying.
I just wrote a song called "The Ride's Not Over," and it's because like even though when you get to so far, there's just still every new step. There's new dues that have to be paid somehow. Like it just always is there. So I um I think there is like sometimes you got to sort out the bullshit. Like it sorts itself out naturally. Those people can't be like lifers, like like it doesn't cut you have to do it. It's like it becomes customary, like the and I'm not even talking about just heavy metal music, rock and roll music, all of it. Like it all kind of there's a clicky scene in all of it, punk rock
Yeah.
especially. I
Oh,
feel
click.
like punk is like the most heavily like, oh man, when you're trying to get in with the punk scene,
Yeah,
whew,
good.
the crust punks, like the gutter punks, like that shit's next level, bro. I can't even fuck with that shit, Like that's see you later. I can never be a crust punk. It ain't gonna happen. But there's just a lot of clicky, there's a lot of everything in that. I've seen all of it from from punk rock scene to the heavy metal scene, because I was part of both essentially. More the punk rock though, definitely more the punk rock. I was a in the crew that I used to roll with, they were tough on people. I was like way more like laid back. They had like people it was like a gang, dude. It was fucking weird hanging out with punk rockers, and I fled. I actually couldn't hang, dude. I couldn't hang with the shit they were doing.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't for me, man. They were like
enough, man.
they're fighting people and like all this. There's like they get violent at shows, and I was like, bro, that ain't me, man. I'm no. I don't want to hit anybody, man. I don't care what you did. Like you fucked my girl. All right, see you later. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? I'm not fighting anybody. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's not worth it. And not, I don't believe in violence. So I eventually had to like, and it didn't matter anyways, because I was already looking for more progressive musics to get myself involved in anyway. I had
Yeah,
already, like, I was listening, because like I was a big Danzig fan. So of course, like Danzig, I actually found more about Black Sabbath through Danzig than I did from Black Sabbath on the radio for some weird reason. So I kind of like got into like Black Sabbath through Danzig. Essentially, I definitely was a Misfits fan and a Danzig fan before I even knew who Black Sabbath really was, other
sure.
than the radio songs. You know what I mean? Like I knew Danzig's like catalog. So um when I started getting into Black Sabbath and getting into more of that, in Led Zeppelin and those bands, I things started shifting at that point, because you know what it led to essentially and changed my life forever, was Judas Priest.
There you
That really that I listened to Sad Wings of Destiny and I was blown away. But
that
I was an Iron Maiden fan really early on too.
it was made in,
Um,
yeah, originally.
so they were already kind of like a regular fixture in my music. I loved I loved Eddie. He was kind of punk in their first record. They kind of looked punk,
Yeah, yeah, they
you
were.
know.
Yeah.
So it kind of really spoke to me like a lot. But like I felt like Judas Priest was like a whole different level of style though. It was like, what is this? And that's when I really started to like really start to focus on heavy metal. Obviously I knew the thrash metal bands, Metallica and whatnot, but it was when Priest hit though, that's when the new wave of British heavy metal world really just like was like I just went down a rabbit hole of
Yeah.
Angel Witch, Satan, Diamond Head,
Dude,
Tank, all of the great British bands that were so underground doing what we are doing right now
yeah, and still doing it. A
40
lot of
years ago,
yeah, yeah, that's yeah.
just documenting our times as bands. It is a really great time of music. I'm actually, I like, from bands from Cauldron to Spell to I know Traveler and a lot of these really good bands right now. I'm like, it is an exciting time of music to have a little revival in it
Oh,
or whatever. So
pretty good albums this year. Hope
the gatekeepers are going to come because there is the like we were here first and this like Hell's Heroes, there's starting to be a little bit more popularity amongst the underground, but that shit happens and at the end of the day the strong will survive. Like I could pretty much guarantee that people will see Haunt until I'm dead. So it's like,
that's the
this is
goal.
what I work on. This is my thing. This is my life. This is my art.
Yeah,
And I'm not going anywhere. It took me a long time to get to this point to
yeah.
find something that really speaks to me on that level. Um, but I feel like there's a lot more gatekeeping in the internet than real life, though.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. There's people are always willing to say more meaner things on the internet that they would in real life. That sucks.
Because in real life, you're not going to be that big of a dick.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
No, everyone's
you could get hit. Somebody
yeah,
might
yep, yep.
hit that, and this is the type of shit that like I hate. So we played 2 Minutes to Tulsa Festival, and Vicious Rumors. I honestly, it's so weird because they're California. I'd never heard of this band, Vicious Rumors, and I was waiting till everybody left the backstage to eat because I just was like I'm like a weird eater. I'm vegetarian, so it's like I'm always like, I don't want people to see my disappointment if or me eating like bird seed, just because. So like I usually wait till everybody's like out so I can look at everything and
Yeah.
be like, fuck no, what now? And they two guys from the band were backstage and I didn't know who they were, and me, I'm pretty friendly, talkative guy. I just was like, so since they were there, I was like, hey man, how are you guys doing? I'm Trevor. Nice to meet you. And the dude was like, you don't know who we are?
So you
And I was just like, at that point, and I had eaten a gummy too, so I was pretty lit.
yeah, yeah,
I was just like, and I just look back at him. I'm like, sorry, and he's like, dude, this is the Riff Lord. And in my mind, I was like, that don't look like Tony Iommi, man. Like,
yeah, yeah.
dude, is that Tony? Is that Tony?
You're in there.
No, I'm like the Riff Lord. And then I was just like, and he's like, have you ever heard of a band called Metal Church? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and I forgot to say when I walked up to when I asked them, they're like, when I said, "Who are you guys?" He said like White Snake, and I was just like, what? So it was weird, really weird. So you know, um, he got really crazy with me on this thing. He's like, "How do you not know who Vicious Rumors are? Yeah, how like he gave like guilted me." I'm like sitting there, and I'm just like, and I finally said, you know what I said to him? I said, "Sorry, man. I don't just don't know it." I'm like, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And he was like, and he goes, "Yeah, you're that guy in Satan." Because I was wearing a Satan shirt. I was wearing a Satan shirt.
yeah.
And I was like, "Nah, man, I'm Trevor from Haunt." And I was like, like at that point, I'm like, see, you didn't know why would I know who you guys are? You don't know who I am.
Yeah,
It's
reasonable.
like, but you do never, you know what's funny is the next day I emailed their fucking manager and I said, dude, your singer is the biggest fucking dick I ever met. And that night he tried to steal Brian Ross's bottle of Jägermeister after the show.
What the
Like
fuck?
it was so wild. This guy was such a dick, and then he blamed everybody that was at the fest for stealing his backpack.
What the hell?
And but
Sucks, man.
that was hell that to me was real life gatekeeping. He was like, "You don't know who how do you not
Yeah, yeah.
know?" And trying to like belittle me. It's like, so don't like, if you are going to be a gatekeeper, don't be the guy that belittles people because of what they don't know, because like it's
Yeah.
impossible to know it all. Are you a fucking know-it-all? So don't act like a know-it-all. Protect your scene from shitty people or whatever, or teach them to not be a poser. Somebody's got to show them the way. you
Yeah, true.
know
Yeah, and look, now
hold
he was
their hand hold their hand through it, dude. It's better to gain a friend than gain an enemy, man. Like
yep,
that's for sure. So I say fuck all the bullshit, and just like the internet is the worst for that. That's where I see it. That's
yep,
where I hate it. That's why I pay somebody to do my social media now, so I don't have to look at social media anymore. Because for me, it doesn't really click that well. Like this kind of thing that I'm doing over here on YouTube, this is what clicks for me. Talking to my friends
yeah,
and like having some sort of real non-edited, non-makeup, real life shit that we could just be, we can't go back on anything said. And that's, you get the truth that way, and
yeah,
the truth always prevails, man. So it's like, we've talked about a lot of things, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are going to see this in the next couple weeks that have been following both our bands for quite a while now. Like we're creeping on, I just I in next year it'll be 10 years since I signed to Rise Above Records, which
huh,
really sparked my career as a musician, because that was the first time I'd been solo. Like
right,
I was always in other people's bands. So
right,
that was when I was like, this ain't fucking working. I can't, like, I never could find people that were into the shit that I was into. That was the hardest part, was like there'd be like metal guys, but they wanted to do some other shit always. It was always
yeah,
more different style, and I would try. There was a lot of I found a lot of new metal bands in the 2000s. It was like so annoying. It was like, oh my god, every time. And I'm like, do you guys like Def Leppard? Let's do some more shit like that, like
great.
that was my big thing in early on, was like actually doing something like Def Leppard, which is, I've now found, is actually impossible to sound like
Well,
Def Leppard.
but talking about the way you're doing drums now, it actually kind of made me think of Def Leppard because they had like read the
Yeah.
song, build the drums after to go perfectly with the riffs, which I think is pretty cool.
That's another reason why I was like, if one person gives me shit about what I'm doing, I'm just gonna mention the album Pyromania, and that's the end. You cannot tell me that you cannot write a good heavy metal record on electronic drum set.
Yeah, yeah. Hell,
I mean,
Entombed.
the whole kit is, I mean, like, go listen to the snare drum. That is not what a snare drum sounds like anywhere. Anywhere. You could listen to all the Judas Priest records, and then go listen to Pyromania snare drum, and you're gonna be like, wow, that is like
It's like the gated.
different.
I love the story about how Peter Gabriel invented the gated reverb. It was like some kind of weird mistake with a talkback mic. Have you heard about that? It's like,
No, but I love gated reverb. That is one of the coolest sounds ever.
oh yeah, especially for the
So
snare.
great.
Yeah, I think like I can't remember the exact story, but it was like they were in the studio and they were testing the snare drum or whatever, and there was some weird shit with the talkback mic, and it just ended up accidentally creating the gated reverb sound. And they were like, "What the fuck is this?" And now gated verb has been on every snare on every album since then forever.
Oh, dude. I mean, that's how it's so incredible, the artistic mind. You just hear something, you're like, that's
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 it.
it. We did
Yeah,
it. We
yeah,
did it. I mean, like, for a musician, that moment was probably like us building and like, so like a physicist finds some new thing, like what? Whoa, a
Yeah.
music world like gated reverb. Holy shit! Every snare drum for the next fucking 100 years. You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have always been, I really love like pyromania. That's always kind of been my, again,
Oh,
it goes back to like finding all those British metal bands. Like for me, um like I actually really liked the song Mirror Mirror by them, is what really stood out to me on their earlier records, that got me into that band like a lot. Like when I heard that song, I was like, take a look into my eyes, like I was just like, oh shit. And then you hear it, like the bass isn't even bass, the bass is keyboard,
really?
so there's a lot of areas in Def Leppard where that's the case, that it's not even, there's no bass, it's keyboard bass, which is fucking genius. And they're a brilliant band and they wrote brilliant songs, and they didn't have to play super fast all the time, which I thought made them sound so much different than everybody else. Because
Yeah.
that's one thing that I find like I have a problem with a lot of bands, is that it's always the same tempo.
Right. Right.
They
It's
don't
all.
have e- even if you can't, like I'm not gonna lie, like sometimes when I'm writing like a fast song for myself, I'm like, I just basically like rewrote Burst into Flame. Like it's like there's not a lot of area there. Is where I get to a more mid tempo or like just a simple beat, like all of a sudden like there's so much more to do with that.
There can
you know
be.
there's so much there's so much more area to explore, to where it's just fast, you don't, it's, you're rocking, there's no other, when you're fucking speed picking and shit, there's not a lot of room for effects. There's not a lot of room for dynamic
No.
things. It is what it is, and what it's meant
Part.
to do. It's effective as fuck because it's energetic. It's in your face, and it has attitude.
That's why they
So,
do it. But
but
you got.
I think more bands need to like try to write. I don't have a bunch of formulas, but like I got a four on the floor. I got a rock, I got old school rock beat. We got D beat. We got thrash beat, and I always try to like incorporate a little bit of all that, because
Yeah.
I don't want my album just to sound too the same, because I sing the same. It's hard for me to like. You can't change your voice like you could change the style of the music.
Yeah. So okay, here's one trick that I use that I found to be pretty effective for songwriting. I'll throw this one out there. Whenever I hear a song, I'm like, "Fuck! I wish I wrote that." Then what I do is I turn it off immediately, and I just forget about it. And then like a week later, I try to remember it. I pick up my guitar and I'm like, "How did that go?" And what happens like most of the time is I'll remember it, but I'll remember it wrong, and I'll end up with a part that
Yeah,
kind of does the same thing. It's like it's cool to me
interesting.
reasons, but like it's not the same part at all because I couldn't remember that part. But you've got to forget it long enough so you don't just rip someone off. Like you forget it for like a week, and then you just can't
we're
remember.
all we're we're all plagiarists in our own right. There's
Yeah.
always somebody who inspired us to do something, and that's how it has been since the dawn of time.
Oh yeah.
And it's like it's so weird, because like when I look at my the way that I try to write lyrics, this guy I really looked up to when I was a teenager, Andrew Champion. He was in a punk band called Screw 32 in the East Bay area, and I was really loved this band. And he had the best lyrics, man. He just talked about life, and like I knew at that point, I was like, that's the kind of fucking lyrics that I want to write. And it has to be emotional and like real, like something
Yeah.
that's happened.
Yeah.
And in my case, tragedy was like what became my weapon, was like losing my three cousins that I grew up playing music with, who they were like my bandmates most of my life.
Right.
Like they're all
Yeah.
dead. I
Devastating.
had my cousin Mike that taught me how to play guitar. He died when I was 19. Then my cousin Danny, who I grew up playing, he was the drummer. he died when I was 26. And then 3 years later, my cousin Brandon, who was the bass player, acoustic player, pianist, singer, he died when I was 29.
Shit,
So
man.
it's like,
That's brutal.
and it really wasn't until then, like the loss, those things are something that I was like my style of writing music is much more emotional, and that sense is because I touch on those things a lot. It's something that it for my art, it's not only therapeutic. I've had so many people like literally come up to me at a show, and we're not a super popular band. So it's like when somebody comes up to me and they're in tears because of a
Wow.
song, it like blows my mind because I wrote the song "Light the Beacon" for my cousins, like on a as a like a memorial when in 2019 when I found out I was having my son, and so I wrote "Light the Beacon," and like literally that song I didn't even know I didn't I was just like, man, I'm just gonna do this is it. And to have people come up to me and like cry
Yeah,
it's because of the lyrics are they speak true, man, like they really do. Like there's everything about their deaths are in there, and they all kind of affected me in the same way. But also I have a different area that I'm lyrical about, is the overcoming alcoholism.
right.
Like people don't know, but like I had when all that stuff was happening, I didn't really drink till I was like 23 years old. So I wasn't a big partier. It wasn't really to me like I could like I would have a beer, but I never got wasted back in those times. I didn't really like it. So I had this period where I was just drinking like whiskey all the time. So I just woke up one day and was like, I'm not doing anything good. And I'm going to fucking quit this. I'm going to change my life around. I'm going to get back into doing music heavily. And that's it. Like, music's the drug now. And so I talk a lot about, like, you know, the, the things that you have to like break down walls. You have to do amazing things, and you have to stay positive through all of it, because like when you're in a dark negative space, like it sucks. And to have like a positive outlook on things, it's regenerating, man. It's like it just regenerates all of this good feelings. So I also
Yeah.
try to like be that guy. So like I'm in a weird spot in heavy metal because I'm almost like um, I'm
Dude,
but yet,
I
you know,
secret is
where as we were talking earlier, a lot of shit's
yeah,
fantasy. It's like swords and going into war and stuff. And I kind of talk like that.
yeah,
Like I'm the personal battle,
yeah.
the battles we must overcome in life.
I just
Period.
hate the shit that's like glorifying, all this. What's that fucking band? All this sort of Sabaton bullshit that's like just glorifying war. I can't stand that shit at all. I hate that shit. Internal battles, absolutely, but like fucking nationalistic battles, fuck that 1,000 times.
Well, I don't, dude. I don't even fucking fuck with any of like
No, I'm
that
not.
shit's too dark for me.
Yeah,
That world, that everything. There's a lot of things that like I didn't know would turn me off until I got to be older, like really badly. Like there's just certain things that I just like completely disassociate with. I don't want anything to do with there's certain music, certain bands,
yeah,
certain types of people. I'm just like, no thank you. Like
yeah. It goes
it's
back on.
not for me. I can't I just can't do certain shit. But you
Yeah,
know, I think like again with heavy metal gatekeeping and things, I think the like part of um paying those dues is just like you again like just understanding some of the bands, getting to know the bands too, like you gain a lot of friends through music. Like all my friends are musicians. Like I relate to musicians the most.
yep,
Um, a lot of people don't understand that, so it's hard for me, like in a social situation, to
yeah.
really like hang out with non-musicians because I'm like I don't even know what to talk about. Like I'm
Well,
like
what are you talking about your
you
guitar?
guys don't have the same. you'll never understand. I'm like so obsessed. Like I'm on my phone looking at reverb.com right now at guitars, and there's people around like talking, and
Hey,
it's
how you
like,
doing?
what am I going to talk to you about? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
religion? Like, you go to church on Sundays. I don't. Like, I don't know.
I go to jazz. Yeah,
We're
that's
not gonna. We don't have any. There's no common thread here. So like, stick me next to a musician, and it's like all of a sudden, you know, uh, like just there's like never ending conversations and never ending friendship. There's always, I'm competitive with things, but only I'm competing with myself,
yep,
really, with
yep,
not others. Like, I want everybody to have success because, like, I'm looking for it. So it's like I want to be successful in the things I do. And I hope all the people that are trying to do the same thing I am doing see that same success because, like, like, it's deserved. I see a band like Spell. You guys have been doing it for a long time, and like, what makes one band so much more popular than the other? And because, like, at the end of the day, we just want people to hear our songs.
yeah.
That's really it.
That's it.
And to
Means,
feel what we are feeling,
and
and to feel what we're feeling, and those things.
I think that's kind
And
of
like,
back to that lyrics that you're talking about is that you know we all think of ourselves as kind of like individuals or whatever, which sure we are. Also, we're all humans and we all feel the same shit. We all experience the same stuff. And so when you just write lyrics about the shit that is, the shit that hits you, the shit that's happening in your life, the tragedies that you experience, then those might seem individual to you, but everyone else is gonna resonate with those as well. They're gonna make sense to people.
yeah, that's the hope. That the at the end of the day, it's like, another thing that I am heavy on too in this community specifically, and you could ask anybody, is like the fans. I
Yeah,
treat like gold because these are the people. And you know what, dude? Not all of them have leather jackets and cool
yeah,
hairdos, bro.
yeah.
And they don't have the tightest jeans on and the most expensive boots or the most expensive high tops, because we're debating the boot. I got the Yin Yang Air Jordans on right now.
Oh yeah,
Those that were interested in the high top world, I do not judge ever because I'm gonna tell you right now, most of my life have been some.
yep, right.
Know what somebody's scenario is. It's like, you know like, not everybody's gonna look like you, like the cool or whatever.
That's for damn.
And you don't know shit about where they came from, man. Like, some of these motherfuckers, they could have been around since 1979 for all you know.
Yep,
Like, don't even begin to be like, oh, well, this person's gonna look better with me in this selfie on Instagram. Like, look at our butts or whatever. Um, and so the fans, I always like, I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you listen to. They're like, it does not matter to me. Like, you could like Bieber on fucking Wednesday, you could like Haunt on Thursday, you could like Skull Fist on Friday, you could like Spell on Saturday, and then you could go to fucking listen to Paula Abdul. I don't care. Like,
good to me.
does not does not make any fucking difference at all. As long as when you're at the show, you have, you're energetic within your, like, you like the music, you're connecting to it, and you're feeling it, and you're vibing it and having a good time. That's it. Like,
That's the
if
bottom.
that's all it takes to be, like, to be in the cool club or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, man.
the dues are paid through that.
Yeah,
It's like,
you just got to keep doing it.
and like, there is the trendy side too, which always sucks, and I feel like that's more internet based anyway. It's not actually really happening at the
Yep.
shows.
Yep.
so so I would say it's like, you know, I think half of what we see is fake, and the other half might be real. Might be even worse now. 70% is fake. 30% of it's reality.
Yeah.
Um, but I found that most of the people in our scene, they come from, they're older. There is young people in it, and those people seem to be pretty respectful. So like I haven't had any reason to like think otherwise. It's such a
Yeah.
small
It's great.
community of people.
I love seeing young people. In fact, actually, I think after like since COVID, since everything sort of opened up again, I've seen a huge resurgence of like kids at shows. It's at least in Vancouver, it's pretty cool. Like before, like back in like 2019, I remember I would go to shows and I would still feel like I was one of the younger people there, which is fuck because I'm like, in my 30s. But now I go to shows and
Yeah.
I see it like I see a bunch of like 19-year-olds there, and I'm like, that's fucking great. You got to have. I just and they're all into different shit that I'm into, and it's just so cool to see kids at shows. That means that it's healthy. I like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's always gonna be like, I think there's like there was some gatekeeping when the Stranger Things happened, but
Right.
that's why I say it was like more internet, because they're like it was just a bunch of like metal dudes squawking that like blah 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 or whatever.
If
But
no one
I
fucking
mean Metallica, like
right.
I grew up with Metallica. They've been fucking like super popular forever.
Yeah.
That didn't change anything. Everybody already knew who, like everybody that saw Stranger Things, they had already heard of Metallica.
Yeah. Good luck gatekeeping Metallica, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, yeah, it was really weird. They were just like, oh, no, no, no. I saw some stuff that was like lame, but I thought it was cool. The only thing that I didn't like was like they used the BC Rich, which is rad, but like they should have used a little bit more era appropriate one to Master of Puppets.
Right.
And they didn't really do that red crackle warlock's shape. So
Probably
I
not.
was sad by that. I was like, this dude had everything going for him until that moment
Right.
where the fucking person in charge of getting the guitar was obviously like,
Yeah.
oh,
Like
BC Rich is a heavy metal guitar. Here we go, done.
yeah.
They
Like get
didn't
the
like look into it. That would have been sick because like Iron Maiden was like mentioned. They had some some tapes, and the dude, and even my wife, she was like, as soon as she saw that guy, she said, that looks like one of your friends. And I was like, it looks like all of my friends.
yeah.
What are you talking about? Everybody I know looks exactly like this guy. And so for me, I thought it was great to see like a character that I like relate to so much
It was cool.
on
Yeah.
a
Like
television show,
yep.
inspiring like younger people to maybe go listen to like some guitar music, because it's kind of cool, and like heavy metal is awesome and the best. Like, for me, heavy metal is the best music. There's nothing I like more than it. So
Yep.
therefore it's the best. There's a lot of musics under it that may even be right next to it, like some bands stood the test of time. The Misfits, like my son is like so into the Misfits right now, and I feel like it's like the proudest moment of my life, because
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you for at least I didn't have to raise a son that I had to listen to shitty music. Like, you're digging this stuff. And
Yeah.
you know what he's into now? Angel Witch. I put the
Yeah.
Angel Witch video on last night, and he was singing it. And I was so stoked, because I was like, because he's only 4. So like
Yeah.
remembering lyrics is hard. And they say, you're an angel witch, you're an angel witch. They say that for like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like it's really kid friendly heavy metal.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great, man. You got
But
to tell.
anyway, man, I'm gonna get to it. We had a great. This
Yeah.
one's going down in the history books, and I'm gonna tell you right now. Personally, I'm gonna be stoked to watch it like 10 years from now,
Hell yeah.
because that's one thing that you can't do on Facebook and Instagram, is have videos on for that long. That
Right.
shit would be long gone. On here, all I got to do is open up my fucking little page here. It's like indexed in there, and I could just click it and be like, what were we doing 10 years ago? And what the fuck were we talking about 10 years ago? And it's too bad there's not more stuff like this happening because I feel like the underground isn't really represented here in a real way. That's just been mainly new wave of traditional heavy metal full albums page where you're just looking at albums. There's not a lot of interaction with the bands. I know that he's done some interviews and stuff, but like a lot of people don't they can't put a face to the name, or whatever, because it's the world is so vast and there's only so many places you could go.
Yeah.
So, and how much reach there is too between bands, it's like there's not a lot of them. So everybody should be trying to you know give a little bit. And I was thinking, because I've been doing this for a while, I was like last year, I was like, how many fucking podcasts of people that don't even have slight like barely any following at all on there, how many of these do I need to do? Because like after 8 years of it, I like started thinking like it would be a better move just to talk to everybody, because it's just so much more approachable to me than the standardized interview. So I'm not doing interviews right now, only
Yeah.
for like I told my publicist, I was like, I'm only doing interviews for print magazines this year, because I was like, I'm doing this YouTube thing. I'm going to
Yeah.
be talking to my friends. We're going to be talking about all kinds of news that we might not, you know, hear for about
Yeah.
otherwise. And this is, you know, uh build it up, and also inspire people to maybe start doing more stuff as musicians and talking about it on there, and like use the internet for some good, where without having to read a bunch of ads or people's rants and raves or what they ate. I mean, I'm done. Like as soon as I hired Sam to do my bassist is doing the social media now.
Oh, sweet.
um, Dude, is my life has not been better. I can't even explain to you the time I'm spending on those apps now is really minimal, and I'm just like stoked on that. I'm like,
That's
I don't
abs
need to see this anymore. I don't have to look at it. I'm like, I don't have to be a part of this. Like, I can now focus on what's most important, and that is being a fucking ripping musician and supporting my friends' bands like Spell and all the fucking rad bands and all my friends I know, giving them some exposure, giving us something to look at that's not social media. I mean, I know YouTube kind of has that. We got people that could talk and shit on here, but I mean, it's just done differently here.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always haters somewhere. There's always going to be a hater, but at the end of the day, I think when it comes down to what Haunt's doing, Spell's doing, or whoever the fuck, all of our friends, everybody we're all under the same umbrella. We all want the same thing. We all have the common thread. It's like, let's try to keep it going and keeping the movement strong and keeping the spirit. There's new music, so new generations will have something, to listen to, that's
Alive.
from closer to their era. All right, brother. Well, good luck with everything this year, man. Maybe 2025 is the year that we see the road together. Maybe,
I
maybe not,
I
but
think I think it might be, man. I think it might be. I'm counting on it.
but I will definitely, if you're in my area, I'll come see Spell anytime you guys are within a 4-hour driving
Oh,
distance.
hell yeah. Thank
I'll be
you.
there, or if not, play Fresno. I know you guys. It's hard to get down to California. It's really far, and it's a motherfucker. But
It'll be
hopefully, I'll see you, and hopefully, I'll get to be able to get into Canada soon. That's been a
yeah, man.
big
Dude, come up and play Canada. It's
been a
pretty.
big burden for me. Because I could go. I can personally, it's like nothing. It's just I have one bandmate. I almost thought about telling him like I'm gonna hire a Canadian drummer.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah. Do it for
there's a couple dudes, because I know JJ,
Yep.
from, and then also why can't I think of his name right now? I feel like an asshole. Drummer of Traveler, Noah. No,
Shit.
N-O.
I'm blanking too now.
Yeah, see,
Even more
I'm a
embarrassing.
dick, right? But anyway, him.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, bro. 3 joints deep. It's a motherfucker. But anyways, there's somebody that can do it just so I could go play Canada because I do like it up there. It's a good scene. I like the energy of the people up there.
You guys would do
It's
great,
always
man.
a good time.
Yeah.
And I love the East Coast. I mean, I did get to play there. The entranced drummer filled in, so I got to do
Cool.
Montreal and in Toronto and all that stuff, and had a really good time meeting the Canadian fans for the first time ever, and all that. And it just saddens me because I'm like, damn, I'm never gonna. It's like impossible to see these people
Oh man,
to maintain these connections.
it'll
But
happen.
wishing you the best. I'm stoked to hear what you guys have coming out. Everybody go listen to Spell. Thank you, Cam. It's been so rad. Probably one of the best combos I've had in a
Super.
long time. Really, really, really interesting stuff to hear you talk about, the history is of what of Striker to all those things, all everything, man. Appreciate you and much love, bro. Have a
Yeah.
good one, man.
Talk to you soon.
Later, guys. Go
Take it
follow
easy.
Spell. Later.